All right, looks like it's going now. Let me check and make sure. Well, yeah, I think it is. Yeah, all right. Well, I don't want to. Excuse me. Wow. Sorry, folks. Hang on real quick. I want this to be relevant for people who are watching it later. So I don't want this opening to be filled with a lot of fluff. So um, just to kind of give you guys a quick whatever, and I'll say this again probably in maybe another half hour or so into the presentation, so that folks joining a little bit late in the live can understand what's going on. Um, so basically, how did yours truly and you as the audience, and you need to start thinking about this when you're here in the chats and as you're joining and interacting. Um, this case that this channel will be connected to is already connected to. It's going to be more significant than I think people realize. So, and hang on real quick. All right. So, this case right now is being discussed in the news quite heavily because Brittany Griner, the WNBA star, was released from Russian prison and traded um, for a Russian arms dealer named Victor Boot. Now, I know most folks probably don't understand, don't really get that deep into stories like this. That's our problem in America. People form rigid opinions on these things, both on the left and right. Which I would argue anymore, guys, is like if you're still even thinking left and right, you're still stuck in a box. And really get yourself out of that. There's no question, guys. There's problems with people that have severe leanings in both directions because they're in a. This is exactly my point. They're in a what do you want to call it? They're in a confirmation bias loop filled with people that only want to hear things that affirm what they prefer to believe or what they're trying to manifest. This is where we need to start getting deeper into explaining occult um, concepts involving manifesting reality, because the people at the top, the people in control of the media cycle, absolutely understand how the human brain works inside and out. They have it mapped. Case in point, let's take a look at something really quick here. Um, who more than anybody knows right now how our brain is mapped? And what's the news that you're all ignoring because you're so distracted by the Twitter thing? Now, guys, I how else can I say this, folks? Like, I'm as down with anybody as revealing that the FBI was involved with all of Twitter's shenanigans. So don't. Here's the problem, guys. People are like stuck in this little box of like going, well, you hold that position, therefore you must be this. You must be liberal, or you must be a person that's just trying to take down the guy that's helping us all out. I'm like, no, I'm explaining to you that this is all theater, that they knew you knew this. You all know this. You all know you've been shadow banned. You're about ready to, like, guys, they know when there's like ready to be some serious damn near military actions. And so they just swoop in to pretend that they're taking care of it internally, and they're not. This is just the same series of actors from the same large mafia of powerful families that just group together to trick you into believing they're disclosing something that they themselves are doing to you and did to you. So behind the scenes, these guys are all Jack Dorsey and him are none of them really fucking own it. Jack Dorsey didn't own it. Elon Musk doesn't own it. These are buffer puppets. When one buffer is failing to buffer from the larger mafia and people start pounding down his door, they give you a new buffer. And boy, you guys just fucking love Elon, don't you? And that's the problem. He's slipping this in behind the scenes. What are you missing because you're so into this Twitter thing? Elon Musk's Neuralink brain implant could begin human trials in 2023. Elon Musk claims human trials for Neuralink could happen much sooner than later. Oh, this all happened 4 days ago, guys, but let me guess. Twitter files, Twitter files, Twitter files. You just keep forgetting that this motherfucker wants to read your thoughts, read your mind without your permission or with it, which basically just puts you as another synchronized, computerized, digitized, non-human node and a larger link, a human Neuralink, something that basically taps into your brain to create a hive brain. You know why? Because it already exists. And all these people do is replace something that we already have with something that they become a gatekeeper for you to pass through. You can already do what these people are talking about. We can already do it. I have all the documentation to show you. So, first of all, America, please, 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 please. We are a joke to the rest of the world because we believe this shit. Russia thinks we're a joke. China thinks we're a joke. Most of the major superpowers think we're a joke. India long gave up on taking us seriously because we believe stupid shit. We believe these things as a society. I know I'm going to lose lots of people. They're going to come in here and they're going to go, he insulted Elon. Fine, go. I don't care. You'll come back because you're going to remember I was the guy that told you this was all a sham. Just like when Q started, I said, guys, okay, like right now, I'm telling you, like, okay, take away the learnings. Absolutely. Number one, the FBI has been fucking us all over. Good. That's a good takeaway from this. The FBI gets inside companies and edits and deletes people and shadow bans people and visibility filters people, censors them. That's the antithesis of what we are as a country. That is anti-American. They're doing it all shady and behind the scenes as a government entity in a private corporation, or rather a publicly traded corporation. In either case, it's shady as hell. So, okay, I get it. Now, everybody's all, here's the thing, guys. Don't you understand that, like, the way this is being released is that Elon is always in bed with the deep state groups that are at the FBI. So sure, he's telling you all this about the FBI, but these things it's the same ecosystem that keeps each other propped up. He is a character, okay? So just remember that. When they're stuck, when they're caught, they only got one option. That's to admit what they've done. But instead of getting caught the right way and you holding the right people accountable, they put their own person out there to go like, I'm your new hero. Fine, guys. I mean, whatever. But you're giving your power away, your own power. You are giving your power away. Those people up there don't deserve the credit for what you've been doing. It's the people that watch this channel. It's the type of people that listen to this type of information and they all talk about these types of things amongst each other. They are the ones that really made the difference in this country because everything happens bioenergetically. Everything happens etherically. Waking people up is extremely important. All of you people who have dedicated yourselves to being people that put out the truth and are unflinching about it, and you really put an effort into actually putting it out there in a way that was palatable to a lot of different people. Like, you wanted people who didn't think like you to understand it. Like, I really praise you. I think that's awesome. Like, I was trying to do the same thing. I was doing my best to be forthright and 100% with it, but I also did not want to be abrasive. I didn't want to run around insulting all the different groups of people because this information, I'm talking about, it confronts a lot of things internally within people. I know because it did to me. I rejected people's information. I rejected the people themselves that were giving it to me at times because it confronted something internally in me that I wasn't ready for. Things about my family, for example, which is why we're going to get into, guys, like why this channel I'm about to explain to you. Congratulations. I know I'm in the single digits right now, but enjoy it while you can. Because there's going to be a point here, guys, where everything that I've been telling you about the last however many years, sure, here in America, they ignored it. And overall, most places ignored it, right? The connections to me specifically also. But now it's undeniable, guys. Like I am this close to a major conflict between Russia and the United States. That is not exaggerating at all. I'll explain it to you really quickly here. I already have the slide ready to go. Okay. This is the case involving Roman Seleznev. Okay. Those of you familiar, I've explained it to you. I'm not going to try to beat this like a dead horse or whatever here, guys, but Roman Seleznev is a Russian citizen. If you look at this case really quickly, it'll just explain it very briefly. So the reason why this guy is important right now, guys, and why this is going to connect to this channel that you've been watching, those of you who are more, like been watching for years, guys, it's all about to happen. So if you wanted this channel to be like a little bit whatever amplified, I don't know how it's not going to be, just because of what this is all connecting to. These are like globally, and I'll explain to you why I've already been doing things in the background to help, but to help basically negotiate peace. Because I don't want there to be a war between nations, guys. And right now we've got like Nazis in America that, just like with Iraq, like with Iraq, they lied to our military. We had military analysts that were contractor Nazis that were non-military, that were giving bogus information to our military to convince them that there were things going on in Iraq that were not actually going on. So like the biochemical weapons labs that were remote, like on trailers and everything like that. You'll love this, guys. If you read like deeper into how all that thing happened, most people have forgotten like the etymology of how we got into the war. But it basically involved like this convincing the military that there were these sort of like mobile weapons labs that were like trailers, almost like Breaking Bad, the meth trailers, except these were ones that developed biochemical weapons and things like that. And so they basically planted the suggestion and said, okay, this is what they look like. So in America, they were training SAIC, this company filled with a lot of Nazis, if you ask me. They were telling our military, like, here's what these biochemical weapons labs look like. They're remote and they take them from place to place. But in all actuality, that model they showed them was something that SAIC just created. Like they themselves showed it. They had never actually found one in nature. They didn't actually have a true example of one. They showed one of their own. And then the example that was displayed to convince us to go into war was, in fact, a facility that was run and managed and known by SAIC. And so how many times, guys, which, by the way, they're connected also through shenanigans to the FBI. If you look into Science Applications International Corporation, they ran the virtual case file for the FBI in not too long after 9/11. And this was like basically for intelligence gathering, for a whole bunch of these complex cases. And SEIC's involvement caused the whole system basically to like never really function properly. They sold a bunch of hardware that did not have functioning software. And then they even got a contract after they failed to do it once. I think they go back and try again. And this happens over and over again with this contractor, guys. And that's straight up Nazism. When they can't fail, when no matter what they do, they get propped back up. Those are Nazis helping Nazis. Nazis always get away with every fucking thing in the world. And they always have a there's nothing that they can do that basically causes them to lose their position. Case in point, the guy, David K., I'm not going to tell you that he's a Nazi per se, but let's face it, guys, SEIC's got some Nazification going on. And in that company, this guy straight up lied to the American population. And then SAIC is so good at rigging people's perceptions, he wound up getting sort of rewarded for his honesty when he came back and said, well, actually, none of that shit was really true. But then all those soldiers went to Iraq over that. All those people in Iraq died. All of our American soldiers died. Like a whole bunch of these, not all, but a whole bunch of these people, like thousands of people died over this conflict. because SCIC is going, over there, guys, look what we found. You should go get them, go get them, go get them. Always, guys, over and over again. I mean, that's just a couple cases I'm telling you about. So again, having a relative that worked there for 6 years when a lot of the effery that gave them control over our infrastructure is relevant, because I'm trying to explain to folks that there's a larger mafia that has control over the infrastructure of America, and that other nations had to be aware of what happened. And so I'm going to be straight up with you guys. I made myself relevant. I made sure to explain what was going on in America to the outside, because I needed to understand. And I'm not going to pretend I know every single piece of it. But what I tried to do is give them like a basic 101, like, okay, I don't care who you are, whether you're here in America, you're in Russia, you're in China. Here's how it all gets rigged in the background by a very small number of people. And even if it's not these people, I'm explaining to you that it would only require this number of people to do it. And if it isn't some of the people that have been close to me, they should be instrumental in helping us find out who they are, because they must be close to them, because only a select number of people could have access to kind of infrastructure that could surveillance people on the level these people are capable of doing, inserting narratives. And it's just difficult, guys, to explain how powerful my family is in the background, but they're very, very powerful and very influential. And so I'm going to explain to you how that all works. And I'm going to show you press articles that show all the different lines, guys, because I'm connected to this case that involves this high profile hacker named Roman Seleznev. I'm only a couple degrees away. How? So let me read you his story really quick. Also known by the hacker. How about that, folks? Please, guys, I ask you, be patient with me on this stream tonight. When that happens, please hang around. I will have a backup network available. They're already effing with my stream, okay? They know I'm going to get deep into this, guys. I'm telling you, like, you guys, you are witnessing history. I'm this close to something that's like globally political right now that's about to go huge, okay? It's been ignored for years, but it's about ready to blow up. All right, so let me start over here. My family is connected to this case. My Aunt Catherine Warma was a Department of Justice attorney that was connected to prosecuting this man. As a result, Russia blacklisted her, and this is the this is the press article that you can reference here. So I'll give you guys links to it. And if this is important to you, I'm going to ask you, like, if you see me go to black, set up a hotspot on my cell phone if I have to get a network. I don't care what shenanigans happen. I'm going to make sure that this stream keeps going. Russia blacklists U.S. justice officials related to Seleznev's detention. And so again, guys, Russia has blacklisted 4 U.S. Department officials: Charles Seth Wilkinson, Ethan Ray Aronson, Catherine Mormon, Norman Barbosa. All right. So as many of you know, I've already communicated to you that that is my aunt right there. And then if you don't know how that works, I'll show you very fast without, I don't want it, I want this to be more about the case and less about me, but you need to know how it connects to me so that you know why this is all going to be relevant. So what I'd say, you guys, is like in this channel, like think about what you're putting in the comments and think, I mean, really, because like it's going to be a lot bigger than you think. Your whatever you're saying and thinking is going to be amplified a lot more than you realize. Um, I personally think I don't see any way out. I don't really see how it's going to be otherwise. I didn't even think about it much until just recently about how close this was getting to the things that I've been talking about for years and years. But this whole Brittany Griner thing made it all just go whoosh, wide open, and it's gonna keep going from there, folks. It's just gonna, in good ways. I mean, this is gonna be this is nothing to dread. There's going to be a lot of disclosure, and there's going to be a lot of like peace treaties and global agreements and corrections of currency issues. Like lots of things are going to get solved in the next year or two. It's going to be going to be an era of I would say record peace. Right now, that's why they're trying to get everybody to into these war situations where we're at each other's throats. They want everybody to be fighting instead of, finding each other's commonalities. And so that's one of the reasons why, guys, like in order for their, this is extremely challenging information for me to have to present to the world population because it involves my family. But I have to be honest with people because, it's too big, guys. Like when you're close to something like this and you don't know about it, and other people do, and they're looking at you like, are you serious, dude? You're close to all these people and you don't know what they're doing and you don't even know what they could be doing? Really? I think you're full of shit because that's the kind of way they pull things. And I go, well, you're right. That's what they do. They're always denying, acting like, who, me? I couldn't possibly. I don't even know what you mean. So I'm going to show you guys here that I have a connection to somebody in my family. And, again, this is, how am I related to this person, Catherine Warma? Well, right here it says, this is like from an obit from my aunt, and it says that, one of her, these are all the different relatives of her mother, I guess. And it shows that Catherine Warma here is married to Ricardo Cruz. And so all I'm telling you guys is Ricardo, that's my uncle. He's my blood relative. So he is my father's brother. Okay. And so my father's brother is the one married to Catherine Warma, and she's at the center of this globally politically relevant case. She's been blacklisted from Russia, and now we're in this case. We're in this hugely volatile. Well, actually, something, guys. It hasn't been that volatile lately because Russia is actually willing to do the. My screen keeps going off, so my stream is going to glitch. So my uncle and I were because I was asking for help at a time where and all right, you guys there? Give me a confirm here if I am. So I'm going to keep telling the story because that's the whole point of glitching my connection, is to make it to where I can't talk straight. So sorry, guys. This isn't organic, guys. This connection works pretty much. Something's happening the back door. Anyways, So we basically got along, until about 2012, and that's when I started approaching him about some of the things that were going on in my life. Like, I could tell that I was being hacked. I was having some pretty significant, like, industrial scale harassment going on, and so I kind of sought his help out. And he basically gave me this very lawyer-esque, dismissive, bogus letter in response, which I still have a copy of, that acted like they don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. And ever since then, for me, it's just been a downward spiral with my entire family. When it comes, not entire family, I just mean like my immediate family, not my sister per se. She and I get along fine, but the rest of them I don't get along with for this reason, because of their close connections to everything that I'm explaining to you guys. Like Sam Brinton, that DOE energy guy. Okay, my family's got a connection to shit like that. They do. Sam Brinton, that guy that's running around stealing clothes and was like, put in charge of like getting rid of nuclear waste. Those types of decisions, guys, there's not a direct linear path to the family, but I'm explaining to you guys that that is classic nuclear industry occult shit. Behind the scenes, a whole bunch of them are into things that are like way, way darker than what you're even seeing in their public photos that you might find shocking. These aren't just alternative lifestyles for a lot of these people. It's a death cult. It is a sacrifice cult. Mockery of all of us is a part of it. They look at all of us as their sacrifices. That it's just a matter of, are you a priority or not? Where do you fall on the list? Well, if you're not effing with them and you don't have a rare blood group, then you're way down on the list. If you're a non-rare blood type, especially, and you don't have strong opinions, they're not going to mess with you. So here's the deal, guys. I don't want to get deep into that. I'm going to show you, though, right? Let's get back into the slide. All right. So now there it is. That shows you right up there. Ricardo Cruz, that's my uncle. Again, I don't know Catherine, his wife, that well. It's glitching again. How about that? I don't know Catherine, my aunt, his wife, that well. Okay. And again, she had a couple kids. And I actually did get to know one of my cousins better than the other cousin. But yeah, like they had a couple kids. I do know the son, like I haven't talked to him in years, but we used to talk when I was younger and we got along fine. But his daughter, Lydia, who wound up in radio, I really never talked to her. I mean, I can only remember saying a few words to her, just like Catherine. It was weird how, like, for the most part, most of my cousins and everything and all of us, like when we were younger, we all talked a lot and knew quite a bit about each other and actually interacted quite a bit, even though we lived like 1,000 miles apart. But that's the one section of the family that, as close as I was, geographically, to my uncle Ricardo, both being in Washington State or in the Northwest, like I didn't know much about him and Catherine's family for the longest time. Like it was just like they were kind of in their own world, and she kind of liked to stay to herself and didn't really mix with our family, the Cruzes, not much. And so just giving you some quick background. I'm not trying to be overly personal with it, but that way you kind of understand, like, this is in fact her career trajectory. She is the same person, guys. It's not like there's a lot of people that would have this name. And she was an assistant U.S. attorney in the computer hacking internet crimes unit. And so she is in fact the person that is referenced in this article that I just showed you, where it says Russia blacklists U.S. justice officials related to Seleznev's detention. Okay, guys. Now, you might be going like, Gabe, or, we've heard all this or you've gone over this, but I'm going to explain to you why this channel is about to be more relevant. It's because when you do search results on all of these things, guys, especially when it comes to my aunt's name and Roman Seleznev and Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin, the search results, like anything involving Jenny Durkin relative to Warma, relative to Roman Seleznev, within algorithms, they're connecting to this channel. So there's like, you have very limited search results because this case has been so censored in the United States. Wow, America, home of the free and the brave, right? But to try to find honest stories about this blacklisting of United States Department of Justice officials, trying to find a US-based media publication that will even discuss it in earnest is difficult. other publications from like, The Guardian, or I mean, even like BBC to some degree will talk about it more. But here in the US, they almost act like this shit didn't happen, or they'll talk about him as the notorious hacker, but they never tell you that Russia blacklisted my aunt and 3 other people from the DOJ. It's that kind of omission of information in the US that started to give me a huge clue into what was going on. I'm going, it's my family that's censoring shit, because I can't find anything on them. I can't find anything on my grandfather. I can't find any. I mean, look, I have verifiable stories within my own thing, but I was going through all kinds of records and going, my family is scrubbing records about themselves. They're scrubbing records that connect them to James Pettigrew, the pedophile. They're making it to where there's no link, that it's not verifiable. And guys, look, I don't want to have a connection to a serial pedophile. I've tried turning this shit in, and anybody who knew about it. But guess what? Somebody's a little bit more powerful in the family than I am, and that's about to end. I'm just letting you know, because being honest matters. Having integrity and being decent matters. Putting others before yourself and those closest to you. I mean, guys, this family cannot just sit there and turn their back on what they knew about a serial child molester that was this close to them, that they let go to Mexico for however many years. Because do you know what that's going to lead to, you guys? They can't deny this any longer. James didn't just go to Mexico like as some like former pedophile from the US that was like tucking his tail between his legs and going, fine, I'll move down there and be poor and leave the US and all my riches behind. No. He set up shop. He set up fucking shop, which means that it was a partnership, that there was something trafficking oriented going on between central Mexico and the United States that my grandfather, James Pettigrew, a serial pedophile, was connected to. And somebody must have been benefiting in the family. Otherwise, well, if they actually cared about turning in child molesters and going after the real bad guys in America, they would have turned in the one that was right fucking in front of them. Oh, and I'm going to embarrass you, family, because you fucking deserve it. Look, I don't want you to be embarrassed. I just want you to explain this shit, because I'm tired of having to be the person that has to run around like talking about it. I want to talk about energetics, and I want to talk about like building pyramids, and I want to talk about structuring and manifesting a better reality, which I've been doing for months. I've been doing for years. I have to do it behind the scenes, but see, to y'all, I can't show you what I do a lot of times, but I'm going to explain to you what I did using Psi research, partners that are in defense groups, and veterans, and how we actually have negotiated peace treaties outside of the standard structures. We did, you guys. We really did. And I want you to have faith in that. I know this is a limited audience right now, but I will explain to you in detail how I did it, where I did it, the geographic location through which I positioned myself. And I didn't just do things that are like non-tangible. I did things in physical reality to negotiate peace treaties. Now, number one, if you saw yesterday's presentation, I wrote a letter to the Russian embassy over 2 years ago. In the summer of 2020, I actually wrote a very detailed letter to the Russian embassy explaining all the effery connected to Roman Seleznyev's case and my family and their connections to deep state surveillance and what's going on with disinformation and misinformation in the U.S. Regarding U.S. citizens, as well as the whole Russiagate narratives that I believe are created almost like a Nazi vendetta. See, Nazis hate Russians, guys. Please, please, please remember this, okay? America is Nazified all to hell. We let Nazis in here like vampires. You let vampires in the front door, they'll suck your fucking blood. We let the vampires in through the front door. We invited them in. Never invite the master vampire into your front door. Didn't you watch The Lost Boys? Don't invite them in. And they did. They invited all these Nazis into America, and they went to work. Took over telecommunications, took over our space infrastructure. So why do you trust that they handed it off to somebody who's legit now? Why in a million years would you think that the Nazis who started all of it wouldn't have anything but one of their pre-selected guys like Bezos and fucking Musk? Those are pre-selected by the Nazi bloodlines. I understand they're giving you a bunch of disclosure. Well, Musk is. But it's part of the con. Look at his position on Ukraine, guys. Look at his position on Neuralink. Okay, those aren't agendas that are consistent with helping you be freer. But I get it. Now he's in charge of the Twitter narrative, but that's only because they made him in charge of it. He's not really the guy that's doing it. It was going to have to get done. Some hacking group was going to reveal it. Somebody out there was going to show it. The military would have been knocking down their doors. White hats and defense groups would have been doing it because of its election rigging at this point. What they're doing is illegal. And the FBI was not only complicit, they were doing it. So, guys, on multiple fronts, we've demonstrated now that within America, the bureau that we have in charge of federal law enforcement is not enforcing the law. So there's once you get past that, now you've got to get past the challenges that are going on internally in the military. Because then the military's got to take over. But look what they've been trying to aggressively populate the military with. You got it. You know, all this nonsense and shenanigans and putting all these people in charge of positions that have their alternative lifestyles, the Sam Brittons, the pup dogs, the whatevers. Guys, look, it's one thing to have an alternative lifestyle. I ain't going to judge anybody as long as you're not hurting anybody or whatever else like that. But like a lot of these people, what they're doing is crossing so many professional lines. So again, guys, I wouldn't give a shit if these people did all their things in private. Because see, image does matter within governance. How the person presents themselves to other nations matters as far as how seriously we're taking. And somebody within this country wants us to look like a fucking joke, which means that they don't take our defense seriously. And those of you who do, take over, because these people are throwing us all down the fucking toilet. And I've given you a doorway through which to pass through. I promise you, I did. And I'm going to show everybody here why and how. And you're going to know, those of you who are unconvinced, even in the military, who have been kind of checking me out, who are new to this, you're going to also understand that I promise you, I love this country. I love this country and I respect your service, veterans and active, both. You must know that. I really do. I actually went into one of the recruitment offices in my early 40s, knowing that I was probably too old. But I said, guys, I don't know how I can help, but please let me help, because I have significant psi ability. And if you have people that can tap into that, I promise you I can do something meaningful with it. I did that. That's on camera somewhere. If somebody in the military wants to verify that, it happened in a, oh shoot, it would have been, I'm pretty sure that would have been a Beaverton office near Portland, Oregon. And I can probably even get you a date if you ever wanted to like talk to me and like verify with me. Did I in fact go into an office and have that conversation at length? I did. And I also had another conversation before I went into the FBI to report my information, because I was telling them like, look, I'm sure there's good people at the FBI, but I also know there's a lot of corruption at the FBI. And I've got some of those people that are in my family that I have question marks about, that I feel like if I try to go down there and report something, that they may actually intercept my ability to do it. So hang on, guys. Sorry. So many interruptions. But they encouraged me to go down there, and they gave me a whole, and this is when, guys, I started getting heavy psi communication from people that were presenting themselves as being from the military. It happened immediately after I went to their office and told them I have psi ability. It's almost like somebody saw it on camera and was like, dude, we got one, let's try it out. And they've been trying it and it works. So I'm not controlled by anybody. I am Gabriel, individual. I love America and I advocate for America, but I'm no schmuck and I'm no fool. And I'm not a person that thinks foolishly that all these different organizations are without flaws or without need for reform. What we have here is a come to Jesus moment for everybody globally. Everybody has to start to be a little bit more forthright and honest and be a little bit better to one another and stop with all the bullshit shenanigans. And so the problem is, guys, the United States is kind of a leader when it comes to this shit. And if people here in the United States tolerate it and don't demand better and don't get these people out, then somebody has to come in and do it for us, because we don't just affect America, we affect the world. Now, I'm going to explain to you that I have the same perspective on this country as I do even my own family. And that's not damaging to this country or my family. It's the one thing that saves us and actually maintains our integrity and restores us. having integrity and making sure that we hold each other accountable. So I'm holding you accountable because I love you. I'm holding America accountable because I love America. We have to be better. We have to do better. We have to recognize where the problems are. So, guys, I put my life at risk. I had to give up pretty much most of my relationships with my family because this pisses off the rest of them who aren't these ones. Or they just want to stay out of it so they don't talk to me. But I'm going to tell you something, guys. We're approaching another Christmas where I'm probably going to be by myself. That's what this did for me. That's sad. I shouldn't be alone. But that's what's going to happen. And I actually liked being around family. I liked having somebody in my life around Christmas. Somebody, a friend, somebody. But that was taken away from me because I had to be the one that had integrity and had to actually be forthright and had to talk about the others that the other ones didn't want to talk about, so that they can all have nice, comfortable gatherings where they all know something is going on, but they all go with the eggnog and, yeah, you're great. I don't know what I know about you. Well, keep doing that. I mean, if you can live with yourself, that's okay. But that doesn't work for me. I actually care about my bloodline. And I want those of us who've done the right thing. And I want those of us who actually care and have integrity. We deserve, you know, well, we don't deserve to be put into the same category. We do not deserve to be put in the same category as the others. And there's a lot of those in the family that are like me that just have to do it in a different way. And I want those to be acknowledged too, because it's not like I'm by myself doing this. I know there's others in my family that help and facilitate it. They just don't come out as openly as I do. So let me make sure that that's very clear. It's not a completely corrupted bloodline. They're not all bad people, but there's definitely problems that need to be addressed. Now, I told you that about my family. I want you to take that same sense of internal accountability and apply it to everything in your life, yourself included. I hold myself accountable. I hold my family accountable. I hold this country accountable. I need to do better. I went out and made significant improvements in my own life. I knew that I had flaws. I said, I got to whip myself into shape. It's one of the reasons why I took that seafood contract. I needed to improve like my day to day, just getting going and being a different kind of person and having more motivation and just being back into the same cyclical world as everybody else. Because I've been doing all this research for so many years that I was having trouble getting back into the world. This was traumatizing to learn for me, to be honest with you. It shattered my sense of family and everything around me. Sorry, guys, I'm getting too personal with this. So let me talk about it more in facts, okay? I don't really mean to go there constantly, guys, because it takes up way too much time. But I really started getting suspicious about the fakery with the whole crisis actor networks when I just started noticing things like my aunt left the Department of Justice, where she was responsible for the prosecution of Roman Seleznev. You see, they do a lot of fakery at the Department of Justice and the FBI. So I'm going, did she actually retire the same day as Carl Blackstone and Bob Westinghouse? It says he's leaving. This article is about Bob Westinghouse. You see that quote up there. And it says Bob Westinghouse is leaving at a time when two other key fraud prosecutors, Carl Blackstone and Catherine Warma, are also retiring. I'm going, so let me get this straight. I know my Aunt Catherine exists in physical reality. She's a real person. My aunt married her. But if you presented to me two lawyers that retired the same day as her, named Blackstone and Westinghouse, I would raise an eyebrow. Because Westinghouse is a corporation involved with nuclear energy and infrastructure, heavily involved with power infrastructure. So I would call them more of an energy company than even like they make televisions and washers and dryers and appliances and things, guys, but they were mostly about industrial energy, especially nuclear power for a long time. Blackstone, well, do I need to tell you who they are? They basically have trillions of wealth. They own property globally. They own most single family homes in America, along with black commercial buildings, residential. Pretty much the reason why you can't get a house for less than $500,000 just about anywhere in the country, and you have to go into a bidding war to pay too much for it, is because of companies like Blackstone and BlackRock. So who is really who, guys? You see, I ask the same questions as you, and I'm demanding the same answers as you. And when I ask it of some of these folks, they just go like, so eventually we're going to have to do better and say that that's not good enough. And that's why it's good that you got me. And all I'm going to tell you guys is, since you got me, please, for the love of God, please don't let them just flush me down the toilet and fail at this moment, because they're trying really hard to disadvantage me right now, guys. And I'm asking you, please don't let them do that. I don't want to sit here and make this a commercial about my desperate state, because things aren't that dire, but they're not getting better for me right now. And I just spent 6 months busting my ass, working my ass off to get out of this situation so I wouldn't have to go through anything again. And I'm finding myself right back where I started. And it's not cool, guys, because it's being engineered. They just want me to be immobile and not able to speak to things and too poor to do anything or get around. And I'm not going to fucking tolerate it. I just showed people what I'm willing to do. I spent the last 6 months busting my ass in a full-time job and a part-time job. I don't want to hear shit from anybody, because I wasn't just doing those jobs. I'll show you what else I was doing here in a little bit. I'm going to show you what I was, I'm going to show you what I was doing. I wasn't just over there processing fish. I was geographically positioned in the exact spot where people from the Ukraine, from Russia, from China, from South Korea, I don't care where you're from, they could see me and they could hear me. And I spent time in a specific location, speaking at length, negotiating things between countries. I would get things from the aether. I would get stories. I would get delivered reports about things going on. And then I was asked to like evaluate and speak to them. And I even recorded some of these things that I was doing while I was in the bench. I sat in the bench. I'll tell you exactly where I was and how I was doing it, so that you'll know it's no bullshit. You'll know that this isn't just something that I did. I'm going to show you how it actually happened, and they could have actually been listening. I'm telling you, the Russians. Now, if I wrote the Russian embassy with information about their citizen Roman Seleznev, and now Roman Seleznev is part of a major negotiation, if you don't believe me, so now you know, guys, you've been paying attention. Roman Seleznev's connected to my Aunt Catherine. Now let me show you the next slide here. Hang on really quick, because I got to go back to my web browser. Here it is. All right, so there's the story right there. Russia demanded a spy be freed in exchange for Paul Whelan. All right. Now this was, if you notice, guys, this just was released like in the last day. Now I want you to see how close I am to something that's like major in the news right now, so that you know I'm not just bullshitting you. Sorry, I should probably use better language now that we have probably more people watching, or will be. I don't know. I am who I am, I guess. You know, I don't want to say whatever, but if you go down to the bottom of this article, though, let's see here. The U.S. made several other offers to the Russians, sources said, to try to get them to agree to include Whelan in the swap. Among the names floated by the U.S. was Alexander Vinnik, a Russian national extradited to the U.S. in August on allegations of money laundering, hacking, and extortion. The U.S. also offered to trade Roman Seleznev, a convicted Russian cybercriminal currently serving a 14-year sentence in the U.S., sources said. Now, again, guys, this is connected recently. Russia demanded a spy be freed in exchange for Paul Whelan. So that's connected to the Brittany Griner case, guys. So those of you not familiar, right? Brittany Griner is the WNBA, the women's NBA player. that got arrested in Russia, and she's been in a prison ever since then because she brought hashish oil and like these carts, I guess, over there, and all of it's illegal in Russia. You're not supposed to have. There's no gray area, guys. There's no like it's okay to have Delta 9 hemp and or CBD or any like no, none of it's okay. You can't take any of it over to Russia. So she was caught basically with a whole bunch of it. I think maybe during the Olympics or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the precise circumstance was, or there was some game over there. But she's been in jail ever since then. So it was been kind of a politicized thing to get her back. But see, again, guys, Roman Seleznev, as far as Russia's concerned, was given an unfair sentence. They believe that America like hammered the shit out of him compared to the way Paul Whelan was treated. And it's hard to argue. I mean, Roman Seleznev got like almost 30 years, somewhere close to 30 years. It's either +2 or ±, like 28 or 32 years. I can't remember the exact number for basically stealing credit card numbers or credit card information. Okay. Financial crimes that the banks all cover in as insured, right? And then the banks basically print money out of thin air. So when you really get down to it, it definitely inconvenienced people, and that's not cool. So that part of his crime, I think, should be actually, there should be some accountability for that. But once you get past that, guys, how bad of a crime was it? I mean, I'm being real with you. I mean, I don't care that the guy got away stealing millions of dollars of financial information because the banks covered it and insured it. And I don't really give a shit about the banks. I mean, they don't care about us. They'll buy up all kinds of property too and keep us under their thumb for years and rig prices and all kinds of other things like that. So they don't have us in their better interests either. Do you ever look at Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase and think, what a great quality guy who cares about my better interests? Probably not. So we've got this problem in America where these gatekeepers, these chosen leaders, are basically deciding our financial futures, and they all have a rigged system where they can take everything from us. Their system always ensures that they always have a leg up on us, guys. If you just understand level 3 versus level 2 trading within Wall Street, like just understand that basic dynamic, understand dark pool trading, understand high frequency trading, what high frequency trading firms are really doing. I mean, it used to be, guys, when you traded a stock, like there was some degree of like actually predicting that a stock might go someplace. You were thinking to yourself, like, yeah, I think IBM might actually be a huge computer company someday. I'm going to buy, a few $100s of that stock while it's $1 a share. And then one day it becomes $100 a share and you become rich and you're all happy. Okay, great. But it doesn't work that way anymore. There is no waiting because high frequency trading algorithms are fractionalizing every cent involving every trade. What I mean to say is like they fractionalize it down to where like a share is worth like $3 and like pi. I mean, literally, guys, they could make a share that has almost the exact same value as pi with a string of numbers damn near as long, not infinite. But yeah, within trading, you'll see that like they're fractionalizing and creating like extensions of a penny. And you're like, well, how does that even happen? It's somewhere along the lines. I mean, it can't just happen. Like it seems like it's coming out of thin air. It's very Superman 3 Office Space in its reality construction, right? Shaving pennies off so they can steal this large pool of money just off of, some sophisticated rigging of computing. But that's kind of what's gone on, guys. And it's not just that. So if you have investments as the average person, you're at level 2 at best. So you can get into trading platforms. You get that cool software that all the different guys have, like E-Trade, and you can look at the price of shares and you can pretend you're one of the big boys and buy a share along with them. But no, like it's a rigged system. When you go to buy that share, all the high frequency traders are like waiting there like wolves to make you pay just a little bit more for it than you intend to. And if you try to get it at a specific price, they're not going to let you get it at that price. They've got to wait for it all at level 3. The minute you're even typing it into your computer to begin the trade, they're already arranging their algorithms to rug sweep what you're typing into the machine. It's that creepy, guys. It's like they have a keystroke logger in your trading software that is actually monitoring the buttons as you're typing them in and increasing the price right as you're about ready to offer what it's offered at right at that moment. It happens that fast. So it's like $3.14. And they're just like going, and you go like, okay, fine, I'll buy 10 shares at $3.14. And it's like, no, now it's $3.15. Like, wait a second, I was just about to push enter. Okay, fine, I'll pay 315. And you type that in, it's like, then you're about to push enter, it's like, then it goes up 2 cents. You're like, what the shit? It's like that. Try it sometime. And then if you say, no, I'm staying steady at the $3.14, it'll come back down. They'll just park you all day long and your trade won't go through. It's rigged. It's severely rigged. Crypto is the same way, guys. So there's a little bit more room for the average person to actually succeed in crypto is all, but it's still a rigged, like, as far as like whenever you're trying to go into trading platforms, they still have the same way of like, just like somebody's keystroke logging you, like right as you're inside their software platform. And then right there, they're taking like that little bit extra when you try to get the price that you're looking for. It's trippy how it works, guys. It's spooky. Okay. So speaking about financial hacking things, I mean, again, guys, isn't it obvious like what's going on in America is that the people that are hacking us are insiders. The people that let it go on in America are insiders. Like, my case highlights so much shit, you guys. Like, once I'll be rich at a bare minimum once my case gets more attention, guys, because there's been 2 occasions that I was hacked and they gave me like a mirror, or they locked me out of my financial accounts right when I was having a huge spike in my profits. One time, actually, in both cases, no, I don't want to exaggerate, guys. In the first case, I should have yielded a profit of over $100,000 off my stock trades. And in the other time, it was a crypto trading platform that I had a spread of crypto. And I didn't have very much, but I did it at the right time, guys. It was years ago when Bitcoin was trading still at like $300. Now it trades at like 17,000. So I was making like really good spread trades of all the major cryptocurrencies and just keeping like a hedge of all of them. And right when they had that first spike and it went up to like 20 some $1,000s, I have a powerful family connected to Cybercrime Division and the National Security Directorate. And guess who got locked out of his accounts when the spike happened? I did, for between 6 and 7 months. I could not access all my cryptocurrency accounts, which kept me poor, kept me locked in the same place for the entire time, where I was fucked with and didn't have any money and made to look like a bum when I should have been wealthy. I should have been able to take that money and buy myself like a camper or something to live in. Like, that was kind of what I wanted to do, was get like a van again, like a Volkswagen, like one of the like Westphalia camper ones from way back that had low miles on it, just to get up enough money to do something like that, to where I didn't have to ever worry about this crap. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would know that at a bare minimum, if something happened or whatever, I could always just go to some RV park and everything like that and hang out there, until, the financial things went away. Just as like a little bit of a, what do you want to call it? I can't really drive an RV, so I'd never want that. But yeah, Vanagon I can do. I'm not good at driving big, huge boats. Anyways, guys, sorry to get all personal here. I want to keep to the topic, but so yeah, guys, I've experienced the effery, the hacking, and you would think, see, again, like, my case highlights something. There's something obviously going on. If I have a family member that's the National Security Directorate and this is happening to me, and then no one's helping me, and I'm being made poor and I'm being tortured at the same time, well, there's obviously somebody that wants it to happen to me, right? And that's illegal, by the way. That's international law illegal. That's Geneva Convention kind of illegal. What is happening to me, and not just me, but many other people, is beyond illegal. I have no rights in this country, the way that they've rigged it. So here's the deal. I need my coffee. I just realized I left my coffee. I reheated it and I didn't go grab it out of the thing. I'm going to show you guys something really quick here, in a video article. Those unfamiliar, right? And it's only like about 5 minutes, and it'll give you a quick synopsis, so that way that you'll understand. So that you have a clear understanding, guys. This all involves the trade of Brittany Grinner, and there being a whole controversy set up with a lot of different Republicans, especially where they're like making this bogus argument, and they shouldn't be doing this, guys. If conservative, you need to like look deeper into Paul Whelan, and if you still hold the same opinion after you look into him, then fine. But I would say that you're being a little bit disingenuous with your reasoning. I don't know how the hell you can make an argument for the guy. I mean, he's not even being forthright with his record. The guy should at least be telling people when he's like running around saying, I don't know why I'm here. No, he should at least be saying, like, guys, I know that some of the circumstances behind my being in the military was shady. I know some of the circumstances being Russia was shady, but guys, come on. No, he's not even admitting that there was a little bit of something shady, and everything the guy was immersed in was 100% shady. So again, guys, I'm not I'm not dogging the guy, because you need to understand his actual record in the Marines. So I think what was going on with a guy like Wellen is he was being groomed more for intelligence work, and more specifically probably with a group like the CIA, because who's coming to his rescue? Guys like Mike Pompeo, guys that were from the CIA, guys who have CIA background. And I mean, when has the CIA ever really been immersed in anything? I mean, Mexico thinks the CIA is such a joke that they don't even call them the Central Intelligence Agency. They call them the Cocaine Importation Agency. That's really what they know the CIA for. It's like, oh, okay, the CIA showed up. We can get our coca moved through. Starting to make that relationship with James J. Pettigrew, my mother's father in the family, how they like, let him go even though he's a serial pedophile, go down to central Mexico. It makes that relationship even more eyebrow raising family. So you may want to stop demeaning me and making me the black sheep, and I might be the good guy in the family going forward. What do you think? Because the whole world knows now, guys. Do you understand that? Cruises, please understand this. Cruises and Silvas, you need to get something finally. This is not just between us and the family anymore. This is not just something that's like this closely guarded secret that I'm being shadow banned out of people knowing in the United States. Russia knows, China knows, and a lot of other countries know. I made damn sure they knew. Okay? You are backed into a corner informationally. People knows where it leads back to. So if you're not involved, you've got one choice now: help out. And congratulations. Like, that's the right side to be on historically. You should be helping. If you're not helping, it's going to make you look really, really bad. I suggest you help me put pressure on those in my family, my immediate family. I want you to ask them. Ask Penny Diane Pettigrew Cruz. I want you, the Cruz and the Silva family specifically, and any benevolent people on the Pettigrew and Hatfield side. I'm still open to you being good too. I don't think everybody's poison. It's impossible. In physical nature, it's impossible for all of these people to be evil. And I've experienced too many of them. I've been around too many of them to think of that. Okay. I know some of them are clueless about this. You have to apply pressure. See, I don't get to go to family reunions. I don't get invited to places around Christmas time. So the ones that still do, you need to start asking Penny, and her husband for that matter, they need to answer the question: when did you become aware of the whereabouts of James J. Pettigrew, a serial child molester who confessed to his crimes in the late 80s? I want to know, when did you get his address in Mexico? And I want you to gauge what her answer is, or his, and watch them scramble. Watch them go around in circles like this and start to go fiddle with their fingers and go, oh. They won't know what to do. I've done it. Okay, so I hold people accountable. I ask the difficult questions. So I feel like at this point, guys, that yes, I do deserve better protection. I do deserve more official. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of value keeping me here on the sidelines and continuing to pretend I don't exist like the family does. I'm a good communicator. I clean up good. I'll look a lot better than this most of the time. I used to work in corporations and gave presentations to people sometimes at filled conference halls. I'm not intimidated by it. I don't get intimidated by cameras. I don't get intimidated by microphones. I don't change who I am in different environments. This is who I am. I say what I say. Sometimes it's crude and sometimes it's, uses a few curse words, but it's going to be real and authentic. I'm not going to bullshit you. But I'm standing behind a machine that's all behind this. So I got an aunt that's banned from Russia. And now the guy that she's connected to is being used as leverage. So that's why this channel is going to get more attention, folks. That's kind of the gist of it. All right. So let's talk about non-interventionism. And then I'm going to show you something really quick about what I did with this relationship. I don't mean to be all like, 101 with this shit, guys. I know you know what non-interventionism is, but what I basically was doing when I was on, well, let me show you what I was doing. Hang on. Let me get a map up really fast. I got to get some mapping software going here. I didn't think to do that beforehand. All right. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Let me get the map up. So what I did, folks, is so I have this thing I do called Full Metal Disclosure. And like I was telling folks in recent presentations, I used to have a place that I used to do Full Metal Disclosure from in Lincoln City. I had 2 hotels that I would go to. And it's trippy how now that I was like ready to get back on the road, the 2 hotels that I always do Full Metal Disclosure in are shut down. And they're in prime locations and they look to be in excellent shape. The last time I stayed in them, they were in great shape. They didn't look like they were in like a state of disrepair or needed major renovations or anything like that. But yeah, I showed up and learned that my spots where I normally do my sessions were shut down. What is Full Metal Disclosure? It's basically where I set up. Basically, it's a way to get out of shadow banning and put on like a drive-in theater show for folks that are a little bit more sophisticated with their ability to look into a location. And so I kind of announced to people that have more military and intelligence like type training that I'm going to go someplace and present information to them, complete with talking it through. I'd stop it at presentation. I'd play this whole playlist that has like 30 some clips in it. It's called information sharing for concerned parties. And it's where I basically just dissect everything going on, the crisis actor networks combined with Hollywood and uranium interests and how they got control of the phone systems, the internet routes, IP addresses, domain sales. Like it's a whole ecosystem that they found to like have things that you don't even think about how you get information delivered to you. Like you just don't think about it. The average person just doesn't think, how does my call get to me? Well, these people did. And they made sure to be in all the routes to get where you get your phone call. So if you get an IP address assigned to you on your computer, they're in that. If you get a domain address, so like say you want to create johndoe.com, you got to buy it from one of their companies, and you have since the 90s. It's like that, guys. This is how the mafia runs shit. It's how they control your perception. So we're way more North Korea than you realize. Why do you think I've had to like hop different networks while I've done this presentation, right when I'm ready to talk about particularly damning situations involving certain people? Because certain people, they've always been able to do that to me. It doesn't matter if I'm in a hotel or at a house or wherever else I go, guys. There's certain topics that the minute I talk to them, my whole stream starts to fail. Oh, shut you down. No more Wi-Fi for you. It'll happen just like that. So I've learned to have like this phone. I keep uh, uh when I keep a hotspot plan always, but I try not to use it unless I have to. I only keep it in case of emergencies. So I have lots of like available bandwidth. So if ever like the web fails at a hotel while I'm in the middle of doing something really serious, I can immediately establish the hotspot connection and it'll take over without me losing my stream. I mean, I have to go to those kind of lengths to actually do these sessions a lot of times. So let me show you what I was doing. This is how I'm going to talk more about psi research and things like that in a bit, but I want to show you what I did within physical reality to actually do these things. And before I do that, guys, like I'm going to let you know, going back to the year 2016 and 2017, I was being contacted via astral communication in ways that were really bizarre. Like it was like lucid dream state things where I would be in a dream and I don't dream very frequently, guys. Like I just don't. I don't wake up after having some long dream and it doesn't happen to me anymore. It used to all the time. And you know what? No, it didn't. It used to more frequently. I used to say when I was a kid, but not all the time. But now it almost never happens. I almost never have dreams. So when I do have a situation like this, whether it's in like a half awake state or a fully asleep state, it's relevant to me. And I had a series of these sort of like awake dreams where I was in a completely black room with some world leaders and we were actually negotiating things, as weird as that sounds. Like I was there with presidents and different types of leaders, and I was told basically how things were going to pan out and what was going to happen. And it's weird, guys, but again, it was a strange dream that I had that made me kind of go like, well, I didn't know if it actually happened or if it was just something that I imagined or if it was something in between. um, but it was very, very realistic to me. And it's strange how some of the things that happened in that dream state, like the negotiations and things that we talked about, have wound up manifesting into actual physical reality. And that's the best way I can explain it. So I know that not everything can happen just using astral travel. I'll explain astral to those who don't understand what it is, and I'll get into Defense Intelligence Agency documentation to show that it's not just bullshit, that other governments have it, use it, know what it's about. They study energetics and they take it very seriously. And I can even show you some of those countries' research, not even research, just things that they share with the population to show you how much further ahead countries like Russia are relative to Western nations when it comes to understanding things involving psi phenomenon and psychic research. They're more open about it and they understand it better. And it's because of that that they can use it better to their advantage. They can have better outcomes. They can actually improve their society. Within America, it's our lack of understanding of energetics. It's actually heavily contributing to the destabilization of our country right now. It's our ignorance about energetics specifically that's causing it, if you ask me. In fact, I think everything involving all physical matter begins with the relationship of energetically between human brainwave and its interaction with plasma fields. And so anytime the media is aggressively drilling you with a message, it's trying to change the frequency of information relative to the way you're processing it to where you become a repeater of a false narrative. And then that manifests something false into physical reality. The lie becomes the truth because they promote the lie to such a degree that everyone within physical reality accepts the lie as truth. It's trippy how good these people are at it, but it's not that they're that talented. It's just that they're the ones in control of every gateway to our perception. And it's understanding that that'll help people, I think, decrypt this a little bit better. So I'll show you very quickly here. I was basically processing seafood. Okay. I'll put let's see here, put it on satellite. So a lot of the things you guys saw me doing were in this little extension of Astoria. And so like whenever you saw me do something at the Astoria column, it was like right up here. That's the Astoria column. And this is all like a big corner of that separates Washington and Oregon State. I'll zoom out a little bit here so you can see what I had access to. What this area has been historically, folks, this port, I was situated in here. I could drive to this coastline. In fact, you saw me right here near this Fort Stevens State Park, Hammond and Warrenton area. I did quite a few presentations like on coastlines. Like when I first started reposting again, it was right here on these jetties and lagoons and going out there to those beach lines. And so what I'd like you to like think about is this is a place where that gets international shipping. Okay. This is the gateway to the Columbia River. And so if you zoom out here, you can kind of see that this is Washington here, and this is Oregon here. And this is the Columbia River as it empties into the North Pacific Ocean. And so that's why this is such a huge port town, guys. It brings in international shipping. It brings in cruise lines from all over the world. And you'll see ships near where I used to hang out from all over Russia, China, I mean, everywhere. They're all there. Why? Because the fishing companies that are in here, this is all just filled with like canneries and fishing processing plants. Not as many as there used to be, but yeah, this was a huge cannery culture. And now like a lot of ships dock here. The Coast Guard has facilities here. And then specifically, this is where a lot of the fish come in. And so they'll come in from different countries like, Ukraine, Russia area up near Alaska. They'll come down into here and deliver their fish. They'll bring in these big fish boats into this region and dump them off near the Hammond, Warrenton, and Astoria area at these docks. Okay. So what I was doing was I had a position for several months, or 6 months rather, as a worker within these seafood facilities, where I had a very, very close access to these beach lines. And I was actually, I would say, embedded, immersed, however you want to say it, in this neighborhood for months. And what I would do is, when I first arrived, for exercise and to get around, I got myself a bike, and I was taking bike trails that were going along this area here. So near this facility where they process the seafood and all the lumber industry there's a series of trails that go along the line here. And this one in particular is one I traveled quite frequently. It's a really nice path, and there's benches all along, at different sections. And so when you get to the end of this trail, there's a roundabout. And then right here in the roundabout, of all places, guys, it's at it's at 13th. Okay. Trippy, right? They always try to curse the number 13 or double 13s. Strange, right? But in my case, the number 13 wound up having a positive association, because right here near 13th, this bench right here, it's hard to see on this presentation or on this map. There's a bench here, there's a bench here, and there's a bench right here. And I basically sat right, I'm going to put a pinpoint down, right there. I sat at that bench next to this water body. And the best thing I can tell you guys, if you ever go out there, that's the Columbia River, you're going to see ships from all over the world coming into this area. Because again, think about where we're at here when I start zooming out. So all these international shipping companies go into the Columbia River and drop things off at various different, ports and spots, as they cross through. So yeah, I mean, being there, it basically made it to where you couldn't really just like tuck me away or keep me hidden someplace behind the scenes for a long time. I basically prevented that 6 months of working in that seafood processing plant from being something that quieted me or silenced me. It reduced my influence on YouTube. I lost a lot of my audience. A lot of people that used to watch just, they didn't know where I was or what I was doing, or they just lost interest, and that happens. I mean, whatever. But yeah, But in that time, what I'm letting you folks know was that I was literally, and maybe someday I'll share them with you. I don't have them ready to do right now, but I was like on my iPhone, I was recording them in many cases. I was actually going, all right, guys, here's the problem. Like, so we've got this thing going on in Ukraine, or we got this thing going on in China. So I know what they're saying and what they're delivering to you guys as a position that's supposed to be official or from the president, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to tell you, based on my experience and what I personally believe, this is what I think America mostly wants. And it's just my opinion. And yeah, again, some of it's biased and some of it has my own insertions. And so I never tried to claim that it was whatever. But I was trying to demonstrate to Russia and China that I would prefer, and I believe that most of us would prefer, a non-interventionist future for America, where our role is not to be the world police in various places, and that really, if we're going to do something to like fix things, we're going to have to like correct our karma. You know, the different nations actually have to do things within the karma cycle. And I know that sounds like a little bit Gaia, Mother Age, New Earth, but it's not. There has to be activities that are done as a way to sort of make up for past sins and past conflicts and things that were done over erroneous information by the different governments, ours included. Like, we have to go clean up our messes. We have to be people that actually are welcome places instead of rejected in different places. And the reason why our soldiers are oftentimes rejected is really through no fault of their own. It's because of the way that they have been manipulated into various conflicts for the reasons that they have. And I understand, guys, that people say, well, you have to say yes, you have to agree, you have to consent. Okay, fine. But you understand, guys, that the culture of the very nature of the training discourages that kind of questioning. The very nature of the training encourages more of a hive mind mentality. And I don't mean to suggest that they don't produce leaders or anything. Of course they do. They obviously have people that speak out and have contrarian opinions. But when it comes to making like a functional like military group work, yeah, you don't want to have a lot of big question marks and dissenters. But you should, to prevent that from happening, you have to have an honorable and a solid mission that everybody can believe in and should believe in. And this has been the problem in America, is that a lot of them know going in that they have an erroneous mission, but they stay in it because, well, they want to at least support the person that they've been in training with all this time. They develop partnerships, they develop friendships, they develop familial relationships nearly with people that they've served with. And so it becomes a lot about supporting them and making sure that they're not left behind, or they're not left without somebody caring and supporting for them. And I get that part too. And they don't deserve to be they don't deserve to be marginalized. And so the best thing I can tell you guys is, sometimes the way to do what I did is, how would I get away? Not get away, but how would I even be able to do it uninterrupted? I got interrupted plenty, by the way. It's not like I did all those things easily. But how would I have been able to do it? Sit on those benches and speak sometimes for 2-3 hours at a time. And I did, guys, without any live streaming, without any known audience, but aware that I had an audience. Does that help you understand? I would just be at the bench. I recorded it on video so they could see I was actually documenting it and placing it on my drive. And then I sat there going, okay, here's what I think about the conflict in Ukraine. Here's what I think is going on with this Russiagate thing. Here's what I think is going on with this thing as far as, the China-Taiwan relationship and America interfering with that. I mean, I gave all of them something. It was negotiating peace, what I would do. I was telling them what I would do if I was in the position. I would tell them what I would do if I was in the position, not from my own bias, but because what I believe that most Americans would want if they understood the complete truth. And I wasn't trying to be disingenuous about that or embedding my own opinion. I believe what's in America's best interests for the future is being non-interventionist with these groups. And the way that I began negotiating this, folks, was through astral communication. It began there, but I brought it into the physical realm. So yeah, it all started with astral dreams and ideas that started as something spiritual, as a spiritual idea. But I was listening to somebody talk about something where they're saying like, well, sure, yeah. I mean, we can have these things within astral communication because And that's cool. And I'm glad that these things exist and we have people that are verifying it and saying that it happens and it's not just a bunch of people imagining something, because it's not. But you have to do something that bridges those experiences within that non-physical realm. Once you know that that's legit, you have to take steps to bridge it into the physical realm. And that was a part that I was missing. I was like thinking to myself, okay, well, we had these lucid things, or we had these astral projection things, and okay, we got it done. And they're like, no. See, that's sort of like, that's a negotiation to some degree, but you have to physically bring the frequency into resonance, because that's the loop verification between non-physical and physical. Even though this isn't necessarily a physical thing that I'm doing right now, it's auditory in nature. Your ears can hear it within physical reality. So yeah, we can all have our meetings and they can go like, and they could all sit by the sidelines and go, okay, that guy over there, we saw him in the astral state and we think he's thinking this, but is he really? And that's what I do by going to the bench. I go, yes, what we experienced within an astral plane, I'm explaining to you in Russia, I'm explaining to you in China, Korea, all these places. Yes, I was that guy. You did experience that if you experienced it with me. And now I'm going to help you understand that I'll externalize it and tell you what I think should go on in America. And so I expressed my opinion and how I feel like we can get along better. But I never once said like America should be anybody's whatever, like schmuck. We're not going to be anybody's like, um, we're not bending over for anyone. Let me just put it that way. But see, at the same time, we have to hold the people internally accountable here in America that are harming both our country and are poking the bear. They're poking Russia, they're poking China, they're poking Korea. And they don't represent us here, but they have a lot of influence here. They control the mainstream media cycle and the alt media cycle, both. If you know who they are, look, guys, I don't want to demean anybody because there's some pretty good quality journalists out there that I think are trying to do the right thing, and some of them are known. So I don't want to say all of them are corrupt, but the vast majority, if you know about them, they have to be compromised on some level. Otherwise, they wouldn't even get their name in print and mass broadcast. One of my barriers of whether or not somebody's being legit or whatever is, again, if they're latching on excessively to the pro Elon narrative, and they have and historically they've been skeptical of things that people like us are willing to verify. So if they've mocked us historically, guys like Matt Taibbi, guys, I hate to break it to you, the one that they put in charge of this, he's historically mocked communities that talk about things like we talk about. So remember, your heroes historically have been the doubters. So now they're going to prop themselves up as the gateways that you have to go through to get to the FBI disclosures about what they've been doing to oppress us and everything. No, guys, this is the setup. They're making sure they're always in control at every step. It's always going to be them. So now you're going to award the hero. You're going to award the designation of the hero to the person that's actually done it to you. That's the sad part. I really don't get why people aren't a little bit more sophisticated by now and don't know this lucha libre thing that exists, especially if it's somebody that's controlling satellite communications, Neuralink, tunnel companies, boring tunnel companies. That should be your first clue, guys. Where did the folks here lose their skepticism? Tunnels can be drilled like a mile a day. How come Elon's got the tunnel machines that can only barely get through, and it takes it like years to get a couple miles? No, better technology exists. That's all bogus. Like, again, there's stories that are put out there for us to believe this is how tunneling works, but it doesn't. SpaceX, this is how satellites work, but it isn't. This is the best electric car you can get, but it's not. It's not the cleanest and it's not the best. It's what you've been given to accept. And then you're going to award the hero designation to the person that actually gave you the shit concept when you could have had the really good one that doesn't cost you as much. It doesn't require you always pay the fiddler. Guys, I mean, you guys know, like in the 80s, they produced a car that just ran on regular water. that could go over 100 miles an hour? What happened to that? Well, that guy's dead. So now you know. Yeah, great. In America, innovators are killed. Inventors are snuffed out. They and oh, took care of that. Yeah, Matt says it's an overpriced battery with wheels. Let's get a little bit further with it. It's not just that, you guys. It's not just an overpriced battery. It's like it's a potential explosion on wheels. Have you ever seen a guys? Go look up on Creosan's channel. I think I have a link to them somewhere, where I can give it to you. I can show you some examples of like just like a electric bike. What happens when the battery pack, when just one cell catches on fire next to the other ones, and it starts a chain reaction. It is lithium batteries are incredibly dangerous. And a Tesla car, you're just like, I mean, you want to talk about being like subjecting yourself to a potential fucking barbecue where you're the, you're on the Traeger as the meat. That's what's underneath your seats in a Tesla. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't like it personally. I mean, there's way better ways it can be done. But again, everybody considers this guy a hero because it's like, oh, Starlink. Well, he also took this contrarian position, like he was actually taking the anti-Russian position too, guys. That's telling to me. I think if you don't have if you're at his level and you don't have the sophistication to know who the good guys and the bad guys are in that conflict, you're bullshit. I understand why even some people here don't get it. That makes sense to me. I get why a whole bunch of people, whatever. And I ain't saying to you guys that every Russian and military person's on the good side of it or whatever, but I'm explaining to you that, yeah, when it comes to the Ukraine conflict, there's there's so much miscommunication and like just people not even understanding the basic level and just throwing flags up and saying I support Ukraine without even thinking about what they're actually doing. It's a pro-Nazi, it's a Nazified country that is incredibly corrupt. It is very pro-Nazi. But here's the problem. America is very clueless about its pro-Nazism. So you see our problem, guys. I know you in here aren't a bunch of Nazis. See, we aren't Nazis, but we exist in a country that's controlled by a small percentage of them. They can rig perceptions. They can manufacture consent over their activities. They can actually get people to think things that they normally would never think through simple control over satellite communications and media. Yeah, Fourth Reich, but did they ever stop their third? I always go through that. I go, well, it's either a continuation of the third or it's their fourth. I don't know what it is, but it's something, Yeah. All right. So that's to give you guys a kind of an understanding of what I did. Like I was literally there on the coastline. And rather than just leave our experiences that I had with all these different world leaders in the astral, I basically did what I did a couple years ago. I got the attention of Russia. I got the actual attention of the embassies, guys. I didn't just do this flippantly. I was like, please keep an eye on things. I need you. We need everything to be accountable, guys. You can't be holding somebody else's citizens over some bullshit. And so to me, it felt like part of what I'm here to do is just negotiate some reasoning into it, some regular guy, some regular person, some average person reasoning into it. Because I am a regular person, you guys. I got access to all of this power infrastructure in ways that I never even wanted or planned. I had no idea I was this deep into it until I was way deep into it. Now I'm going like, holy shit. Now it's getting very real for me. Because up until now, guys, I could kind of like half deny that this is all like a thing, but now I know like, wow, yeah, I really am immersed in something like that's huge and global now. And I just want to do something positive with it. I'm not going to sit around and, I want this to be a venue through which we gain greater understanding of how Americans actually are thinking and genuinely, because I don't believe that most Americans are truly having their positions advocated for in a way that's earnest, no matter what position they're taking, even if they're still a person that considers themselves left wing or right wing or Democrat or Republican. Most people's positions are being misrepresented by bot farms and manufactured avatars on Twitter and other platforms, like fake characters that don't really exist, that falsely reinforced opinions that are very radical sometimes, or very an antithesis of what our better interests are as Americans and as a global society. And who's engineering those bots? I kept on pointing out over and over again that Elon Musk himself talks to the bots and answers the bots. I'm like, you're not talking to a regular person. You're talking to a fucking bot, Elon. But then he's going to be the one going like, I'm aware that bots were manipulating the narrative very frequently. Like, yeah, they manufacture support for you. You've got bots talking about what a great guy you are. So, yeah, of course you know about them. Please, you need to be talking more about bots, Elon. But my guess is you don't want to, because it's going to lead back to the fact that you've made yourself a hero using bots. People that just chime in and talk about what a great guy you are all the time. And then eventually the bots, 30, 40 different, you get surrounded by 30, 40 avatars that allege to have similar positions as you. That's what they're designed to do. Manufacture your consent. Then you kind of go like, oh yeah, well, these are all these different people. They're like, you look in their profiles really quick and you're like, oh, okay, they say they're pro this, pro that. And they're like, oh, that aligns with me. They think I should support the war against Russia and Ukraine. I guess that's the conservative position. Oh, they think that I should, like, say, get Paul Whelan here instead of Brittany Griner. Okay, I guess that's the Republican thing. No, guys, those really aren't good, solid conservative Republican positions. I'm just being real with you. I get it. You're like, who the fuck are you? You're progressive or liberal or whatever else like that. I don't even know what I am anymore, guys. I don't really think of it as anything now. I don't care. I just want reason. I want logical decisions. I want balance, real balance, implied consent. Yeah, sorry. But I like that. I think it's Noam Chomsky that said something about manufacturing consent. And again, it's not like I'm a big Noam Chomsky guy, but there is something to be said about the phraseology manufacturing consent, and I think that that's the phraseology. It's literally where you actually place, like a whole bunch of false data sets out into the mass, consumption for people to actually absorb lies, and the lies get people to support, a false narrative, and then they're incentivized to go to war with a country that we should not be at war at, or fund another country in a proxy war against Russia. Guys, this is where I'm concerned. Okay, like, why I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do now is because I'm really trying to prevent a really bad conflict. I don't think you. I mean, I think you get it here, but like we're in some pretty deep shit if we keep tolerating these people that are at the levels they are, taking a shit on our country, because they're not just doing it to us. They're like running around and giving the finger to everybody globally. They're giving the finger to Russia. They're giving the finger to China. They're giving the finger to. I mean, all these different countries are just running around going "fuck you." And finally, guys, Benjamin Fulford is actually reporting pretty accurately on a lot of these things lately, whether you agree with him or not. And finally, the pushback that's been happening is they're basically just being stripped of power behind the scenes, guys, and it's really happening. I mean, so they have a finite clock on how long they're going to actually be able to manipulate events as much as they are, because again, my material has made the difference. It did push the needle. Again, I get it. I'm a guy that has what, well, over 10 viewers, but it fluctuates at under 10 and not quite 20. That's okay though. I mean, for me personally, I kind of like this. I like it to where there's just a few people. I don't have to like scroll through hundreds of comments to actually find out what people are saying back and forth or whatever. So I like that better. I've been in here when the rooms had like 200, 300 people in it, and it's very uncomfortable for me. And I was like, whoa, what happened? Oh, I guess I have viewers now. Wow, okay. It was like I didn't even know what to do. I was panicking almost. Not panicking, but just like, it's too many things to read. I can't keep up. I had to keep talking because I couldn't keep up with the comments. So I want to talk more about the psi research aspects of what we're really tapping into, and one of the best ways of doing that, I don't know if I'll get dinged for doing it or not. The dark side of psychic research, budget properties. Wow, I don't. Maybe I should. That's kind of dark, though, guys. I'm not sure if I should do that or not. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. How many? I don't know how familiar this audience is with a lot of that disclosure material that I've done, but that one might be an important one to play before I get too deep into things. Because, guys, there's a whole thing that connects Russia to some other things that I've been connected to. So, um, so yesterday, if you were in my stream, I read that letter I wrote to the Russian embassy, and in it I mentioned that Robert Bigelow of Bigelow Enterprises. There's a connection between things going on with me and his involvement with things with Russia too, which I know again, like what? Again, that's not quite as a direct of a connection, frankly. But the thing that it was pointed or telling to me was that while I was staying in Las Vegas for a while, I was kind of being whittled down financially to where I really couldn't afford anything but like the cheapest of the weekly budget stays that were in pretty much the poorest parts of Las Vegas. Places that you could rent for 190 bucks a week, for like a studio with like a TV, refrigerator, and microwave or a stove. Actually, it didn't have a microwave, but it did have a stove. That was actually one good thing about it. Like you could actually do traditional cooking instead of cooking everything in the microwave. Um, but it didn't have a microwave though. And and so like I stayed in one of those places out there, and I was doing a whole bunch of my research while I was there, and then it occurred to me in the middle of it that I was actually staying in Robert Bigelow's own property, and then I didn't realize that Robert Bigelow owned Bigelow Aerospace, and that Bigelow Aerospace was actually responsible for placing modules in the International Space Station that's shared with Russia and China. And that right around the same time that I was staying at those budget suites, that's when there was a major failure, or it was pretty close to within months. There was a failure of one of the air modules that involves like helping them keep breathing in the ISS, and that was the module that was designed by Bigelow Aerospace. And I was like, wow, like how the hell am I like a magnet for effery? I mean, what the hell is going on here? How am I immersed in the Russia thing? I mean, I didn't know my aunt had all that going on. I didn't know I was staying in an apartment that was owned by a guy that's not only involved with that in Russia, but those of you who know my psi research aspects, you'll know that Robert Bigelow's big into funding psychic research. He's big into finding proof of life after death. He owns Skinwalker Ranch and other paranormal, topics he's been heavily connected to. He runs a paranormal agency of sorts, but the guy's never been interested in me or approached me at all. But yet I found myself living at one of his properties and didn't even know he owned it. And it was also the same place where I kept on hearing an x-ray machine go off. And that was pretty serious, guys, because I felt something while I was there. And I lost a lot of weight while I was staying there. I'm still here. I'm still doing all right. But yeah, I don't think I've ever felt such a magnetic vibration sensation ever in my life. And I actually recorded it and documented it and even live streamed it. Like you can hear it over and over again. It's not a regular air conditioning sound. There's like a unit above me that goes exactly like x-rays do when you go to the doctor. Identical sound. And that's while I was staying at a Robert Bigelow owned property. I was, as far as I can tell, guys, it looked to me like they have units. Again, it's like they have units that are set up there at these Bigelow places where they can actually just x-ray you using some type of portable x-ray. That's what was happening to me, and I actually documented and recorded the sound. So, why? I don't know. Maybe Robert Bigelow doesn't actually like to pay $1 million for the research. Maybe he just likes to take it from people. I don't know. Because I was staying at his property and I only had one way to look things up on the internet, and that was through his Wi-Fi. But I did learn all this at the same time. So really fast, let's see here. I'll do this information sharing thing. Um, hang on here. Hey everybody, just wanted to give a follow-up to something I posted on my community section today about Bigelow Aerospace and their relationship to Budget Suites of America. That's a company that basically does weekly stay hotels that you can stay in for longer stretches. They're for people that are on a budget that aren't in a circumstance where they can do like a lease for a long term. So it kind of allows you a flexible option of going week to week with everything included, or going month to month, however you want to do it. But the reason why I'm talking about that is because of budget restrictions, I've been kind of like forced into places like this because of my temporary status. Everywhere I go, I'm not. This is from about 2 years ago, guys. Enough money to sort of stay stationary any place. Be right back. So I've been here kind of as a matter of necessity. Okay. Because of that, I didn't really know who owned these properties. I never really thought to look into it or anything like that. So the reason why I'm telling you about this is because I'm kind of surprised recently at what I've learned. I've been researching Science Applications International Corporation and Leidos, which is now called Leidos, but back in the 90s and prior to that, or even after that, it was called Science Applications International Corporation, SAIC. They're the ones that were the sole responsible party for psychic research and bioenergetic research between, it ended in 1995 officially under what was called Project Stargate. You can find all this information online, and I can provide some slides for you. But basically, a lot of my research over the last 4 years has been involving bioenergetics, psychoenergetics, the study of the interaction between human energy, life energy, how that interacts with the Earth grid and the ionosphere. Okay, that's really everything to do with bioenergetics. It's everything to do with your lifespan, human energy, all of it. Okay, that would include various forms of radiation. All right, so what I've learned basically is that. And full disclosure, guys, my brother worked at Science Applications International Corporation between 1993 to 1999, and so did one of his best friends that he still knows. So one of the reasons why sometimes I'm a little bit, I don't know, I guess you could say I tend to probe people in my family about this company is because it struck me as a little bit unusual that something that seems to affect me personally that they would have no knowledge of. So I've had to question them about it, and I've never really gotten what I consider to be a straight answer on these topics. Just a lot of evasiveness. So I felt the need to do this more publicly because I feel like what's going on here is just a little bit too convenient that I only wind up in Budget Suites of America. I can't seem to get other places. And there's lots of places you can stay that are weekly, especially in Vegas. But I learned not that long ago that I'm in a restricted internet protocol environment. For whatever reason, I'm sort of ushered into places without having a whole lot of selection to choose from. Like if I try to look online and find other places, I always seem to wind up at one of these places. So I had to ask why, and I had no idea who owned these places. It never even occurred to me to look. So the point is that I've been having some pretty significant issues here. Where it's one thing when you're being hit with scalar weapons, which are bad enough, they create some pretty serious physical symptoms that just feel like somebody's constantly slowly electrocuting your skull. Very similar to what you find with the principles of wireless resonant energy link and something called Winchtricity, which are wireless energy concepts. So I was kind of wondering, like, why is it so intense here? Why, since I got here, did it seem like after I'd been here about a week or so, it just got super intense? Then I started hearing what sounded like an X-ray sound coming from right outside my window, and I'm like, well, that's a little unusual. I've never heard that come from an air conditioning unit. And it only came from the one that was near me, and then not long after that, it started up in one adjacent to it, but I don't see it coming from any other units. It's a very distinct sound, and I'll provide a link for you so you can actually hear what it sounds like yourself. So I was kind of going, why is that happening? Is this even possible? And is this somebody just trying to like gaslight me a little bit? Is that even a real X-ray machine? Well, I'd have to get somebody in to review that data to find out. But it does sound to me like an X-ray machine. I'll let you decide for yourself. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm losing weight here. My health is degrading. It's very challenging to get myself out of a situation like this. And what made it more disturbing was I kept on seeing a lot of the telltale signs of human trafficking, child trafficking operations being run pretty much almost blatantly and right out in the open, pretty obvious signs of it, which I don't want to get into in too much detail. And again, I would have to classify that as sort of an opinion thing because I haven't actually witnessed it. However, when you see like a child that seems to be bouncing up and down, and a very uncaring woman kind of hanging out next to it, and creepy, dirty old men going in and out of the apartment of various different looks during the day. It starts to be a little bit concerning and disturbing. I mean, again, guys, I can't prove these things, but at the same time, I have to at least like find out why does this seem to be like nobody wants to investigate or dig deeper. Well, I started just to do some other research into some of my psychoenergetics things, and I looked into one document that I referenced in some of my older material that involved a Channel 4 documentary about remote viewers and people that had psychic ability. And I observed that that document was related to Science Applications International Corporation. And then if you look closer on the back of it, there's a scribble there written in by somebody from Science Applications International Corporation that says, Bob Bigelow is sugar daddy for Dean Radins with a question mark. And so I've always wondered what that meant. And I mentioned that even like about 3 or 4 years ago in the article, one of the first articles I did on this topic. And I can leave a link for that. But I've never understood what that was, and I didn't know who Bob Bigelow really was. So I did more research, and I said, oh, wow, I cannot believe this. Like, I literally was, like, shocked, beyond being shocked, that Bob Bigelow, Robert Bigelow, owns Bigelow Aerospace, and that if you look in this article, it says Bigelow Aerospace was effectively funded through his ownership of Budget Suites of America, and it just so happens the property that I'm staying in right now, where I'm noticing a lot of manipulation of my information. I'm noticing very strange anomalies with the Wi-Fi connections and the way that data is transmitted across these connections. There's a lot of very suspect behavior going here, and I kept going, well, what's happening here, And so when so like those who are on the whole time here, that thing that happened earlier when I was just trying to show you some information, it was like that. Like when I was doing a live stream and there'd be something that was kind of damning to somebody specifically, it was like suddenly the Wi-Fi had failures, or suddenly it was being throttled and you couldn't actually see the clip any longer. Sorry guys, I'm reheating my coffee. I'll keep playing this. Found out that he owns it, of all people. I'm going, how did I wind up here? How is it that I obviously, guys, because anybody who knows me and has spent time with me knows that I have considerable bioenergetics and psychoenergetics knowledge. I've done a number of documentaries about it for the last 3 years. I'm very aware. And I also do have some pretty strong intuitive abilities that would be classified as bioenergetics, psychic, telekinetic things. Well, not telekinetic, but more things involving... Guys, let's be real. I mean, you understand, like, Robert Bigelow's connected to aerospace. That's deep state. I mean, satellites. Okay. And on top of it, he's connected to Science Applications International Corporation and psychic research. Do you honestly think that I was at his property, that I was somehow conveniently ushered in there and then effed with by mere coincidence? It's highly unlikely. No, my microphone's okay, guys, as far as I know. So if there's something wrong with it, let me know. Those of you on the other, whatever. But I mean, I just turned off the audio on this clip. Oh, sorry, military industrial complex. Sorry about that. I thought you said microphone. Yeah, I mean, there's that, right? But oh my God, I really need this coffee. It's not hot enough, though. I just put it in for like 30 more seconds, and I feel like it's still barely lukewarm. All right. So yeah, what I'm saying, guys, is that knowing all those connections, I just don't believe that it was a simple coincidence that I wound up at Robert Bigelow's budget hotel. And then once I was kind of stranded there for a few months because I really couldn't afford to get out, it was right at COVID, guys. I mean, everything was turning to crap. And luckily, actually, I was able to, I can't remember what happened exactly. There was some delay in money or something like that, or I couldn't even, like, nothing was moving at that time. And then I couldn't do my normal work the way I could. And like all kinds of crap was going on. And that's when we started making a plan to maybe like consider getting me to go to a different country. right when I was at that Robert Bigelow hotel, because it kind of just seemed like I was going to get railroaded in the United States if I stayed. But honestly, guys, like I don't really know. There was folks that were telling me that that just wasn't going to happen, and that this is where I need to be. Like I have to keep doing what I'm doing where I'm doing it. And so even though they would kind of let me go on the path of planning and things like that, overall, I think the folks that have supported me always kind of have known that this was the place that I was going to have to be, even if things were rigged against me and it was very unfair, because there's no other way to defeat this except to let them pounce and attack in the very sophisticated ways that they know how. And again, they're good at making it look like you do it to yourself or that you're responsible for your own failures. And again, guys, sometimes I am. I'm not perfect, but they do rig a lot of things to ensure that I'm always failing, even when I'm trying really, really hard to not. And I think the whole point of that is, and it succeeded for a while, was just to make it to where I just would just stop trying, and that works with a lot of people. I mean, eventually, in this game of whack-a-mole, if every time you pop your head out of the hole, you get hammered down, you stop, stop popping your head up. you know that's just the way people's, your pain response, that was unpleasant, I did not like going through that, I'm not going to put myself through it again, right? Just the basics of, survival. But for some strange reason, I've got this weird wiring in me where I keep just going dum, dum, but it works. In the end, it actually is, it's having an effect, guys. And I really feel strongly right now, even though my situation's not the best at the moment. I'm not terribly tragic, guys. I got a roof over my head. I can eat decent food every day, so I'm okay right now. But yeah, I've got to have a game plan very, very soon, and I got to know what the next steps are pretty quickly here. Quite frankly, I've got to make plans for a lot of different things, and so I'm thinking to myself at this point that those who want to do something more meaningful, like this is really the time for us to strike, and like do something pretty profound, because my influence is about to be amplified exponentially, and I want to make sure that I'm in the right place, I'm not stressed excessively, and that I have a a good support base of at least one or two solid people that I know are trustworthy, and that I can count on to be a good um, just people that I can bounce things off of, more like a round table, because I don't want to be having the kind of influence that I could potentially have individually. I don't mean that in any bad way. It's not like I just mean it like it's not the kind of thing that you should have individually. It's the kind of thing that you should be like making considerations of other people's opinions and perspectives on, that you get along with, but also have differences with. I don't mean like negative ones, but just that where you come from different perspectives or historically have held different positions, but you agree on most things now. And I think there's a lot of people that I do have that type of friendship or whatever with, that are out there, that I've learned over the last several years to really balance my perspective against others, because I realized that what I came from was filled with lies, and I have to acknowledge that openly. Like if I come from a culture that would lie to me even about my own existence and about what my true origins are, then yeah, how can I be convinced that anything that they've told me has been true? So my path the last 5 or 6 years has just been, all right, I have to start from scratch. I have to assume that a lot of history and a lot of stories that have been said to me are complete fiction. Not assume they are, but be open to them being that way. Otherwise, that cognitive dissonance thing is going to like mess with you. All right. So I don't want this to be too much fluff. So let's talk a little bit more about the psychic research aspects, like these types of documents here, right? And what makes this type of communication even possible. And so I have a presentation that I've done within my energetic series that I think um, is valuable, and sort of like kind of rounding out this presentation to where people won't mock it excessively who review it in the future. Not that I'm that worried about it, but guys, like when it comes to astral communication and the ability to communicate things etherically, you do have to give people more tangible data than just the Gaia Mother Earth, because people just don't believe that. I don't. I don't watch that channel or shows from it typically and find much more than like little fragments that I can really latch onto that I find to be legit. I feel like, yeah, they'll give you those bits of truth. Every now and then they'll do something great on like the pineal gland or earth energy or something like that. But yeah, you know, that's a good point. Matt says it's a time for us to start trusting one another at least a little bit. I think being open to it, guys, like again, I don't want anybody out there to be schmucks or to trust people excessively because there still is a lot of fakery. But I just mean as far as like one-to-one daily people and everything like that, we have to give each other some credit that we come from false reality narratives. We come from reality tunnels that primed us with a lot of false data that made us believe negative things about somebody that we actually should be able to get along really well with. That's the thing I've observed most frequently, guys, is they've done an expert job at making people that should get along really well hate one another. That's why I was reluctant to even say anything negative about my family. I mean, guys, I at that time, even my understanding of how sophisticated disinformation was that I probably lost about a year or two of time getting this disclosure out because I couldn't get past the barrier of belief. Like I learned things about people, but because I wouldn't accept it just on faith, like, no, my family wouldn't do that, or no, he didn't do that, or no, somebody's spinning that story to make them look worse than they are. I kept on saying that over and over again, but then I just started finding like case after case after case. And then once I had one, two, three, I'm like, okay, I've got this many now. And then they don't really answer to it. They don't seem to be being honest when they do give me replies. And maybe some of these people that are pointing the finger at people close to me are right. And that's really not an easy decision to come to, folks. But this is the type of integrity that we all need to be prepared to have, that something that you have been immersed in for a long time may not be 100% holy. I love, a lot of my coworkers in the wireless industry, and I know that they're good, decent, honest people that don't want to do bad things. But I now know that there's a certain percentage of folks out there that are malevolent and are willing to do negative things, and they will use electromagnetic frequency. They will use EMB. They are willing to weaponize frequency. There are some people that are doing that. There are some people also that are completely against it. So where do we, when the money is in one place and not the other, how do we find a way to make this all work, guys? Because that's really what goes on. I put myself out there because I could afford to in some way, because I didn't have family. I didn't have any kids. And so I felt like, since I don't have kids and I don't have a wife or anything else like that, then, I'm not a bad person to have to experience all these things just to prove it all out. And again, I've gone down some really weird paths. I've been spun in different directions by different deep state actors and crisis scenarios, and gone to all over the country. And I've met some really decent people that are just doing their best with what they've got. And I've met some other ones that are really malevolent and malicious and evil. And I've met some people that are somewhere in between, where they wouldn't be as bad as they are if they weren't being as lied to as they are. And that's the other thing I've got to deal with a lot of times. I'm like, wow, this person, I really wish they wouldn't be doing this. They think something really horrible of me because they're being lied to. And if they knew the truth, they would probably be right next to me, helping me out. It's that kind of feeling that I get a lot of times. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that it's time for us to start trusting one another a little bit, because I've had to get past many, many barriers of just whatever. But guys, there's another element of this. You can't be a schmuck, but there's this other part of programming people with your belief. And part of that comes with the way you approach people. And so if it's always with cynicism and sensing that you're being screwed and lied to, that's what you're going to magnetically draw in. But if you're open to people being honest and actually wanting to do the right thing, and actually there being good pockets of people everywhere, then you're leaving your heart open to those people. See, they're going to be magnetically drawn to you because they can tell your heart is open to them. That's an etheric link, folks. Don't take that. Don't just let me go like your heart. No. Yes, it's a frequency. Your frequency opening up something that person's brain is saying to them, okay, that's a safe place for me to at least approach a little bit. Because if you close yourself off and you're full of cynicism, guess what's going to happen? All those people out there that want to do the right thing, you've already shut them down. You've already made your decision. You've already decided they're bad. And that's not fair. I've done it, guys. Not horribly or tragically or frequently or in any broad way. But yeah, I mean, sometimes your cynicism starts to make you start to prejudge things a little bit too quickly. And you start to just like shut things down before you even give them a chance. And so, yeah, we do program things with our behavior, but we also can't be schmucks. We can't be played by people. So your intuition has to kick in at some point. You can't just accept what's in print. Sometimes I was reading things that were really negative about people that I learned later on they were in fact spin. They were lies, but they were designed to create a knee-jerk reaction to where the person who read it would go, "What a scumbag! I can't stand this person." I mean, a lot of that's out there. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, and if you want to shut off my work, that's okay. If somebody's here doesn't like it, that's okay. You can tune out. I don't mind. You know, the fact is, I have facts and corroborative information, so I don't worry about whether or not somebody's skeptical to it. I mean, you can tell me what you're skeptical about, and then we can leave it at that. Where is the hole in my storyline, and where is the problems with my information? So, if you'd like to explain to me, somebody here put that they're skeptical of my work. Watching it the last year, I haven't even been posting the last year very much. I haven't really posted anything but fish clips, and except for these recent live streams. So I'm not sure what you're watching, but I just didn't have a chance to do much more meaningful work besides what you saw, just very basic clips. But yeah, you see things from about 8 months ago. That's when I was doing actually really good quality material involving, the human energy concepts. I was doing presentations where I showed Valery Uvarov's the mechanics of negative energy. Um, you know, oh, I hear what you're saying. Okay, sorry, noises. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. So you thought it was mind hacking. Okay, so sorry about that. So the person was saying that they weren't sure if they were being given some negative messaging authentically, or if it was mind hacking. You decided it was mind hacking. I get it. So sorry about that. I didn't mean to whatever, but yeah, I mean, I just try to tell folks like, sorry, I did read your sentence just so you know. I think it's just that my interpretation of what the sentences meant. Now that I read it a second time, I can see what you were saying. So I apologize to the noises there. Didn't mean to like misinterpret that. It's just that during one reading, it kind of felt like it left it open ended. But yeah, I get what you're saying now. Um, and that's okay, guys. Like, honestly, some of the material I did, to your credit though, the noises, I think some of the things that might have primed people's like suspicion, circuits and what I was doing the last year, that makes sense to me. So like if there was part of you that was getting like a little bit, it makes sense to me because like the Don Codleone and the fish clips, I can see how that rubbed some folks the wrong way, or it seemed like it was some like, rub it in your face kind of trolling when it's not in the way that it might have been perceived. Okay. That wasn't me like, being pro this or pro anything. But yeah, I mean, I can see, guys, and just so you know, like to what you guys are saying to me now, maybe I should put it up just so you guys see. This is the comment that spurned what I just said. So it's not, I don't want to put them on the spot or anything like that, but I just misinterpreted it. So again, to hold myself accountable, I thought they were meant to saying like they were still skeptical of the work, in which case I was just trying to answer to that. But yeah, I get what they're saying now. It's mostly that they were concerned that there was a certain element of like maybe some brainwave manipulation, or, like neuro linguistic type things that were being added to feeds, things of that nature, I think is what you're probably saying. And those things do happen, guys. Again, they'll change opacity layers in the way somebody appears to where like say you're watching somebody for a few hours and you're really into their presentation. This is some deep state things that folks don't usually talk about. And I've had these things happen to me to where I'm like I started learning that this is a technique. They can interfere like with your IP address on a one-to-one level. Like if you're watching YouTube and there's somebody that you're really connecting with, and the information starts to resonate with you, they can do something really sneaky with the opacity layers. So like face swap, that technology that can actually take video or a picture and take one person's face and overlay it completely. Well, they do something similar, but it's more like a Photoshop opacity where you take one person's face and lay it over the other person's face. And so, say it's a person that, like, so say you're watching this 3 hour presentation, not by me, but like by somebody else, and it's really impressing you. And you're like, wow, this is like, I can't believe it. I've never heard anything like this. And you're really trusting it. And it's starting to like really latch on. They can just get the picture of somebody that they know that you distrust or that you hate, right? That they just have an awareness of. And this could even be something AI based that's doing this, guys. I don't really know. But they can add like an opacity layer of that person's face. It could be like an actor that makes you upset or bothers you or was in something that made you cry or made you traumatized, whatever it is. They can just add like little bits, like 5, 10, 15, 20% opacity, where that person is just put over this face. So like right now, like I see me, I'm looking in the camera, I don't really see any manipulation, but I have no clue what you're seeing on your side. For all I know, at an IP, internet protocol by internet protocol, individual address, because of the way things work now, yeah, there are labs, there are agencies that have the ability to literally go in and do things at that level of sophistication. They can take screenshots, they can tap into your microphone, look at whatever's on your screen, read whatever it is. So, guys, I mean, there's never been any safe IP address anywhere in America. I don't, there's like, there isn't any portal that you can go through within America that's untouched by this group. It just doesn't, it can't happen. I don't care what hacking network you are. I don't care how sophisticated you think you are. If you're geographically here, there's no way out of this, except for, as far as I can tell, on the coastlines. If you have access to something near a coastline, then there is ways of rigging data and telecommunications effectively, you can wire it to another country on a coastline. And it's just, I think, how they're doing it in America. It's all up and down this coastline here where they're actually bringing in private networks. That's part of what they're shipping in, guys. Data routes, telecommunication routes. It's not just payloads of things. Oh wow, noises. So do you mind? I hope you don't mind if I put this on here. But it says, like, for a while you reminded me of my ex fiance. It really freaked me out because it made me think that you secretly knew me or something. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. But the reason why I did that is because that's exactly the kind of things that they can do on an IP by IP address. See, like, that's something that would be uniquely to you, that gaslights your sense of reality. And if you try to tell somebody about it, they would go like, "Get the here, that they're losing their mind." And I'd be like, no, 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 no. You share so many things in email and on social media that you're thinking and that you're feeling. If you have an open disdain for your ex fiance, then yeah, then anytime, guy, if this is a person that actually brings up negative associations and negative memories, then they're going to tap right into that. I'm telling you, like, this is one of the reasons why it's good to let go. I know I'm not trying to say, like, forgive things that are unforgivable or anything else like that. But no, like, if you can let go of it, then you won't be as susceptible to that technique. That's it. Just for that reason alone. Like, if I run around hating my mother for the shit she did to me, then all they've got to do is find a little bit of opacity of mommy dearest to add into things, and then suddenly it's going to start triggering things inside my subconscious that's going to make me do knee jerk things, and I'm going to be less effective at what I'm trying to accomplish. So we all have to, folks. Like, I'm telling you, like, this is 2.0, 3.0 of us evolving as a species. Like, we need to start realizing that there's very sophisticated methods of changing our perception to get us to make things manifest into physical reality that normally would never happen, by tricking us, by tricking our perceptions. And it involves this technology involving brainwave, And so I think I should get to some of that a little bit. Some of my brainwave things in this specific. Hang on here. Oh, wait a second. Okay, there it is. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Just wanted. Hey everybody, building on the energetics topic. All right, so this is I don't know if I'm going to play the whole thing. I guess I can, because I wanted it tonight to be about like verifying how there is a connection between human brainwave and Earth resonance. And so if I don't play this clip and then give like sort of an explanation afterwards, it's not going to all mesh together the way I wanted it to. So what I'm about to show you folks is from my energetic series. I'm going to try to just to play it without interrupting it too much. And it basically covers topics that involve psi research, things the military knew about how we communicated at brainwave to brainwave level. Um, and it gets into Bob Beck's research involving extremely low frequency and how we basically produce and generate extremely low frequency using human brainwave, and that people that are psychic and more intuitive in nature actually generate more of this type of brainwave than the average person. So I'll get more into that topic um, as this starts to whatever. So I'm going to play that right now and I'll be back. I want to talk about brainwaves and basically what was known dating back to 70s, 80s within our own government, military, what kind of research had been done, how it's been expanded since then, and what kind of studies have been ongoing about the effects of different technologies on our brain frequency, on our brain waves, our ELF, extremely low frequency, what sometimes people call their alpha state, their ability to meditate at the 8 to 12 hertz range. And so I put this picture here and showing, brain waves and longitudinal waveforms, because a lot of times people see something like this with a head and all the matrix grid and all this talk about a gateway experience, and they associate it with new age type nonsense like I would have. And what I'd like to tell you is that I pulled this straight from a U.S. Army report called Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process, dated from 1983. And it goes into great detail. I've quoted this in my last article on Energetics 8. So I want to build upon this a little bit to kind of demonstrate to you that, yes, that does look a little bit sci-fi and new age and that type of thing, but there's a real, concept involving how we interact with one another, how we perceive reality, how there's no solid matter, things of that nature, and that we're vibrational frequency beings, as it were. So a lot of this, some of this language that's co-opted by things that I think that I personally find a little bit off-putting, like new age things. I've found science that basically, I would say, validates a lot of the things that are contained in that. And that's why I want to provide more information to sort of say, like, look, you don't have to be within that group or adopt their value system or hang with that to understand these concepts. You really can just reference some of this documentation, which I'm going to leave all in stills at the end of this presentation so you can freeze frame a copy on your own. Getting to that, I'm going to quote from the Gateway Experience report here. I already did before, but I think it's important before I start the discussion as far as what studies were done involving cellular phone technology or wireless phone technology. This is a study that I'm going to quote later on involving GSM. It's an older technology, but it's still relevant to the way electromagnetic frequency, the proximity of a handset to the human skull can affect your ELF brainwaves. So I wanted to talk about the actual numbers here first. I want to talk, I'm going to take from the brain stimulation quote here, part 9 of the report, where it says that the brain is contained in a tight membrane called the dura, which is in turn cushioned by a thin layer of fluid located between it and the skull. As the coherent resonance produced by the human heart in a state of profound relaxation reaches the fluid layer surrounding the brain, it sets up a rhythmic pattern in which the brain moves up and down approximately 0.005 to 0.010 millimeters in a continuous pattern. The self-reinforcing character of resonant behavior accounts for the body's ability to sustain this movement despite the minimal level of energy involved. In this way, the entire body, based on its own micromotion, functions as a tuned vibrational system which transfers energy in a range of between 6.8 and 7.5 hertz into the Earth's ionospheric cavity, which itself resonates at about 7.75 hertz. So this is getting into the concepts involving the Schumann resonance, as many people are familiar with. I've quoted that documentation many times in the material. you can go back through a lot of my previous bioenergetics research to look into that. But I wanted to move on to the next part of this that discusses more about frequencies in general. Because a lot of times you'll hear people say that we're resonant, we're beings of frequency, or we're resonant beings of frequency, and things of that nature. And it seems a little bit hokey and new age, which honestly, in as far as terminology goes, it does come off that way. But there's a certain degree of accuracy that you have to lend to it. Really, when you're thinking this through. Basically, all right, I'm back. Please give me a confirm if you guys are still there. Anybody, just give a thumbs up really fast, and I'll keep the presentation going. Sorry about that. Again, guys, anytime we start getting into the meat of this presentation, jam, network goes down. I have to get off the network that I'm on and get onto a different network. That's what I'm having to do, guys, to keep this stream going. I'm going on my second or third time now. So thank you, Terry. I appreciate it. Let's keep it going. Trippy. Being, brain, consciousness, and all is like the universe which surrounds him, nothing more or less than an extraordinarily complex system of energy of accuracy that you have to lend to it, really, when you're thinking this through. Just rewound it a bit. Basically, just discussing how, that you're at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, an atom oscillates at the rate of 10 to 15 hertz. An entire molecule composed of a number of atoms bound together in a single energy field vibrates in the range of 10 to 9 hertz. A live human cell vibrates at approximately 10 to the third hertz, the third power to hertz. The point to be made is that the entire human being, brain, consciousness, and all is like the universe which surrounds him, nothing more or less than an extraordinarily complex system of energy fields. Okay. So that when you go back then and look at that illustration, it doesn't really seem to be that new age, does it? It seems to be quite accurate when you look at this. The left hemisphere consciousness grid acts like the mind's computer software to reduce input from the right hemisphere to verbal symbols and concepts. And when you really study this and try to visualize it, I added, by the way, the color to this. This was only black and white. I added the waveforms from some of the research that I was doing. So that's why I'm integrating this presentation here. And it says consciousness energy grid. So what I would challenge you to do, I guess, is to try to visualize these waveforms, longitudinal waveforms, and various spirals and coils, and try to visualize those types of things as you think through your own brain processes, that you have frequencies that are emanating, that are able to be received and are sent out, your influence upon others, what you do with your energy to others. The right hemisphere consciousness grid reduces three-dimension holographic image to two-dimensional go, no-go. Sorry, that's been omitted. That was in the original documentation. I guess the copy was bad. But the point is that a lot of these times these things are sounded like when they say that we kind of live in a matrix grid, or people try to hypothesize these things. Well, yes and no. Really, if you think about it, we're still vibrational energy. We're still energetics of some sort, right? We're still this energy mass of some sort that's interacting with other masses of energy, whatever you want to call that, whatever you perceive that to be, right? Whatever your belief system is. I think it all fits. So getting into that, like, what are the things that are out there right now that can impact everybody on as a whole on their physiological brain processes? And this is where you have to lend a little bit of credibility to people's concerns about cellular phone technology in general. I'm not even cold phone emission modulates interhemispheric functional coupling of EEG alpha rhythms. This is a brief slide. I'll just read it really quick. It says, we tested the working hypothesis that electromagnetic fields from mobile phones, EMFs, affect interhemispheric synchronization of cerebral rhythms, an important physiological feature of information transfer into the brain. 10 subjects underwent electroencephalographs, EEG recordings, separated by 1 week following a crossover double-blind paradigm in which they were exposed to a mobile phone signal, Global System for Mobile Communications, GSM. That's a older iteration of existing technology, cell phone technology. The mobile phone was held on the left side of the subject head by a modified helmet and oriented in the normal position for use over the ear. The microphone was oriented towards the corner of the mouth, and the antenna was near the head in the periotemporal area. In addition, we positioned another similar phone, but without battery, on the right side of the helmet to balance the weight and to prevent the subject localizing the site of GSM stimulation and consequently lateralizing attention. I think that that's to suggest that they're trying to make sure that the brain doesn't just perceive the weight of the device in its assessment of your brain waves, or like the blocking potentially of an external source. So I think what they were doing was placing a dummy phone on one side that did nothing and an active phone on the other side that did something. So I think I might have mischaracterized that when I discussed it in other presentations, so I apologize. Moving on to this. In one session, the exposure was real, GSM, while in the other, it was sham. So again, the dummy handset on one, the minutes, functional interhemispheric connective electrode pairs, individual EEG rhythms of beta, about 4 to 6 hertz, alpha 1, about 6 to 8 hertz, alpha 2, about 8 to 10 hertz, and alpha 3, about 10 to 12 hertz. Results showed that compared to sham stimulation, GSM stimulation modulated the interhemispheric frontal and temporal coherence at alpha 2 and alpha 3 bands. The present results suggest that prolonged mobile phone emission affects not only cortical activity, but also the spread of neural synchronization conveyed by interhemispheric function coupling of EEG rhythms. Now, let's say this in English, guys. I'm not a doctor, but what that says to me is that hang on really quick here, guys. That when you basically place something that's close to your human brainwave at a level of amplification that can compete with your natural brainwave or Earth brainwave, if something else can basically tap into the same frequency and over amplify you relative to either Earth or your own individual brain, it can hive you. It's possible. It's possible to go into a room full of people and put them on a common clock that is not organic to themselves or Earth resonance. So if you know that Earth resonance has an amplitude factor, let's just say that these things are measured between level 1 through 10. Let's just not even think about decibels and things like that. Let's just break it down to something simple and easy. Let's say your human brain wave is registering somewhere between 7 to 8 hertz, and that its amplification level as a one individual person is at level 3. And say the Earth, because it's this big mass or whatever, it is also broadcasting around 7 to 8 hertz to Schumann resonance, but it's closer to like 9 or 10 because it's the Earth. You're just a little person on the Earth. It's the actual Earth, right? And what these tests were doing was learning whether or not the frequency that you have coming out of your brain, that's between 7 and 8 hertz, can be interrupted by something artificial, a cellular phone that also has a clocked frequency contained within it, that it's pulse modulated at, that is clocked somewhere within close to human brainwave. And what they learned is that, yeah, if prolonged use of the phone, when you have it here close to it, that you're interfering with that connection between human brainwave relative to Earth brainwave by having something at an amplification factor that overdrives the two natural grids, your human grid and Earth grid. That would be cellular phone technology. And so this was my come to Jesus moment, folks. This was why I personally had to question things, is when I began learning this exact fact. And I saw that there was tangible research out there that was put out by, globally renowned scientists. And there's dozens of, actually hundreds of these reports. That was just one that I quoted. That no one can any longer say that there's no information out about these things. I was like, that was what we were always told. Like, we're always told that, like, well, no, these are all bogus studies. And no, that's, and again, the ones that they would show us were bogus. They were not very good studies. But the one you just saw there, I think, was a pretty solid way to determine these things. And they actually did measure. And what I think you would expect to have happen, wouldn't you expect it if something is like especially old school cell phones, they were a little bit stronger power outputs. The phones from back then could, I think, be 0.6 of a watt. Today, they're about 0.2 of a watt. And even back then in the GSM days, when they're still analog phones, you had analog phones that were in people's cars, or bag phones that were up to 3 full watts, not fractions of a watt, but full watts. And those things pumped out lots of power. And if you had one of those things near your head or your body or whatever, like, man, like those 3-watt bag phones that you used to exist early in the cellular days, you put them next to a computer monitor and it would make it flicker. You're like, pew, pew, pew. Like right now, the keying up a phone call, or it receiving a phone call, or you pushing a phone call out, would actually cause a monitor to like be interfered with. I do remember that about them, because it used to happen on our computer terminals inside the office all the time. I used to work at a cell phone company in the early days, in the 90s. So I just thought I'd share that with you guys. Like, so, again, sometimes it's in confrontation to something that we've believed our entire lives, guys. Can you imagine? I did this for 20 years. I designed cell towers for 20 years. I maintained them, designed them, and optimized them. And then I read this after I left the industry, and my head just about exploded. I'm going, they knew this? Because this almost seems like somebody wanted the GSM standard to like get people to clock artificially on the towers instead of human brainwave to human brainwave, or human to earth brainwave, which is how we're designed. See, human to human is one link, right? We're bending the plasma that way, but all of us, all the billions of us in this world as a collective group, all of the brainwave that we're generating as a collective forms circular grids that complete the larger grid that is the earth. It is. We exist in what created us. We're creating it, and it creates us. It's a freaking brilliant thing. It's actually pretty amazing, because this is why it's eternal, and this is why it's infinite, and this is why all these religions revolve around it, guys. There's like a legitimacy to faith and religion to some degree, because it addresses this is more spiritual as a concept, and it is spiritual. But remember, everything spiritual manifests into the physical. So why would there be an effort to change brainwave? Because everything begins as a spiritual, etheric concept, and you bend aether using frequencies and brainwave. So all you have to do is find a frequency that does the same thing as brainwave or earth brainwave. And that's what some of these mobile masts had done. That's why I'm explaining this to you the way that I am. I just don't want it to sound like I'm talking over anybody's head. That's precisely what that technology did, as far as I can tell. So we have to question it, and we have to ask why, because it doesn't have to work that way. Okay? So that's just throwing that out there. Let's go back to this visual. You can kind of see once you start to contextual. To be fair, though, GSM has pretty much been phased out, but it's still worth asking how somebody developed a standard to begin with that kind of operated like that, Why is that? and think about what they're discussing here about the hemisphereing of your brain. And then you realize that our own government, within our own research, the things that we were acknowledging internally was that we are, sort of a vibrational frequency, beings, that this is a key element of how we process thoughts and how we interact with one another and how we perceive reality. I think you have to lend some credibility to people's concerns about technology. It would be foolish to do otherwise. And so that was something that was dated from the 80s. So a lot of people don't realize that this research continued on, and they were really trying to master it. A lot of this research moved on to like places that are typically, I guess you could say, assigned or blamed to it, which is like Stanford Research Institute. They're commonly quoted in paranormal psi phenomenon. But really, a lot of the staff from Stanford Research was, I guess, taken over, or rather, maybe, I don't know if they transferred, or I'm not sure what the story is, but a lot of them moved over to a lab that was a subsidiary of Science Applications International Corporation. I think eventually folded into the, corporation as such. And a lot of that staff, I've downloaded tons of their documentation from CIA.gov's Freedom of Information Act library that's been declassified. So things that were around the 90s have been declassified more recently. So I have some of that documentation here because I commonly discuss it in my material and SAIC's role in all this. And they did one called, you can download from that, and I'll put all the document numbers inside the description here. It's called Significant Preliminary AMP Experimental Results of the Science Applications International Corporation. So just quoting really briefly to show you what they did. As part of the activity's external R&D contract, SAIC has been conducting basic research into the nature of anomalous mental phenomena, AMP. During fiscal year 1993, so again, this is the 90s, mid-90s, 3 significant experimental results were obtained. Although the data is still undergoing evaluation, preliminary analysis indicate that the results are considered to be a breakthrough nature in anomalous mental phenomena research. Entropy experiment. Previous relations theory that could be applied to anomalous cognition, AC research, to identify meaningful differences among target types and explain why all targets are not equally sensed by AC capabilities. The variable called entropy may be defined as a measure of the information inherent in a target. Laboratory experimental activities demonstrated a significant degree of correlation between AC success and dynamic changes in the target's entropy. This is the first time in the history of AC investigations that a physical variable has been correlated with any AC anomalous cognition activity. The potential value added of this experimental result to the STARGATE program is twofold. Those not familiar, STARGATE is pretty much always the big program that's associated with really the weirder psi phenomena. So taking a quick break from that, back into it. First, it should now be possible to pre-assess the information content of a given target so that taskings may be chosen which should have the highest potential for successful data acquisition. This should improve the overall quality of data gathered by AC. Secondly, if the information content of a target is known, then the difference in data acquisition from that target should be directly related to the skill of a viewer. It should therefore be possible to develop an objective method of assessing AC skills using these experimental results. Alpha desynchronization. It is an established neurological fact that a brain in idle generates alpha waves at approximately 10 hertz. And that these waves diminish significantly whenever the brain's idle state is interrupted by an external stimuli. EEG and electroencephalograph experiments conducted by Science Applications International Corporation seems to have demonstrated for the first time in AC research that reception of an AC signal by the brain does in fact interrupt the alpha rhythm in the same manner as would any other external signal. This is called event-related desynchronization, ERD. The potential value added of this experimental result is the potential use of ERD to improve AC functioning, analogous to the method in which biofeedback can be used to train a person to alter his physiological responses. This experiment demonstrated that changes in the electrical properties of one person's skin could be affected according to the intent of an isolated operator and indicates that AMP can be used to remotely influence biological systems. Really consider what that amounts to and think about what that really translates to when you're reading through this report. And I'm going to create stills of all this and put it at the end of my presentation here so you can read it on your own. But remember, we were studying how to interrupt that process, how to master that process. They talked about their mission. This was a big deal. It was all part of Project Stargate. You can look that up. Nearly everything that's related to remote viewing, psi phenomenon, telekinesis, anything paranormal that we have officially acknowledged anywhere is going to be related to that. So now that you've seen a cell phone study that basically, getting back to that, talks about how that particular GSM phone study demonstrated there is a little bit of interruption at the alpha 2 and alpha 3 states. So that's between 8 to 10 hertz on alpha 2, 10 to 12 hertz on alpha 3. Think this through a little bit. We're having to go back to the material a little bit and remember that we've already acknowledged that we basically operate as vibrational frequencies, and that this is the core element of that vibrational frequency is within that range. So yes, when they talk about their mission, this is the ultimate weapon. So to validate that, let's get into some research that pre-existed the governments and things, and was more related to Robert Beck, Bob Beck, I guess he goes by sometimes. There's a report out there called ELF, Magnetic Fields and EEG Entrainment. I'm not going to read the entire thing here, but I will include as many slides that I have from it for your own review. But I wanted to just read this first part because I think a lot of people don't give a lot of honest credibility to some of the concerns people have about the effects of frequency on the brain. What are the overall impacts of all this contribution of various frequencies into our environment? Are we studying it effectively? I'm not trying to make any claims of anything aside to say that, I do believe that there's reason to be concerned, and that judging by all the information you've seen so far, this should really be something that I would hope would, motivate you to look further into it and decide for yourself. So I'll start here. Clinical research indicates that somewhere between 25 to 75% of human and animal subjects may exhibit marked psychological sensitivity to extremely low frequency ELF, magnetic and electrical fields. Brainwave entrainment can be demonstrated at electroencephalographic range of approximately 3 to 20 hertz at intensities of below 100 nanoteslas. That's important to remember when you're doing measurements on your own. If you get an EM meter that's of a good quality, this is extremely good information to have for you, because you can actually set your EM meter to sweep between these ranges. So if you begin to take this information seriously and you're trying to understand the effects it has on your body better for yourself, I would recommend you really take this material seriously, because Robert Beck is considered a huge authority on these things. ELF fields of 6.67 hertz, 6.26 hertz, and lower tend to produce symptoms of confusion, anxiety, depression, tension, fear, mild nausea, and headaches. Arthritic-like aches, insomnia, extended reaction times, hemispheric EEG desynchronization, as was discussed earlier, and many other vegetative disturbances. H and B field magnetic vector oscillations of 7.8, 8.0, and 9 hertz produce anxiety relieving and stress reducing effects, mimicking some meditative states. See how we've been talking about alpha state, the earth resonance being at 7.8 hertz, how when you reach that state, you can sometimes tap into that frequency. This report validates what we've been talking about here. And this, again, it just demonstrates it's not new, okay? I'm not claiming any of this is.
All right. So I'm going to get back to kind of like doing more of like the, showing less of this material and starting talking again here. So to be clear, folks, if you want to watch that entire presentation on your own with all of the different, there's like most of my energetic series, I actually give data links for people to go and research things on their own and things in the description section. So there's usually kind of an essay or a more detailed description in the description with more links and things like that for you to go follow on your own for the different reports that I'm referencing and things like that. But I wanted to talk about this because this is kind of what's going on, guys. This is process that, even though this is talking about cell phone technology, I get it. That was like one example, but like, guys, like that's missing the point. I mean, okay. It's one method, but it's not the only. And folks definitely need to figure this out, that frequency is all around you. And if you don't think that something like Elon Musk's Starlink system can do it, then you're not paying attention. It can be Skynet. It can rain frequencies that pulse modulate you and get you to hive together without you even knowing it. And where are the fail safes
to ensure that these things aren't abused. They're going to be up in the sky. Can you stop that from working? Can you make something that's pulsing your entire neighborhood and clocking you all together artificially to hive you? And then not tap into that, the fact that this man wants to start testing human implants, but you're still cool with him. That's all right, guys. I get it. Take your wins from him on the Twitter thing right now. I mean, you should. I mean, but think of him as a character. Think of him as just a chess piece. But don't get loyal. Don't start getting like, emotional about it. That's stupid. That is a buffer character. Now, again, what's going to be the end result of all this? See, what are you as the people? What are we as the people going to do with this information? Are we just going to say, great, we've got a new hero that does it for us? Because that's really the wrong position to take. Because there's a whole bunch of things out there that you all know aren't being disclosed. And a whole bunch of these people that have access to as much information as Elon does, they already know it. So why aren't they putting it out? Guy, can you imagine the kind of human trafficking organization like to defeat, if you wanted to create a organization that could completely topple human trafficking, you would have needed far less than $44 billion. And you could have done it. And with that much money, you could put a, a huge dent in it, and then all the ancillary economies that surround it. If you want to be a real hero, I've been saying that for a long time. To me, that's like I'm waiting for the benevolent billionaire who announces they're going to do that. But see, all I see is Elon responding to the same characters. So I have with me, even just to we could hash this out and debate it. It won't ever happen because I'm not one of the pre-selected characters that'll go with the narrative. Look, guys, I want to believe people, and I want to feel like they're being sincere. But how come the two main figureheads that are in the alt media on Twitter and are listened to on Fox News both are named Red and Blue? Guess who you get to go to for disclosure about all the cults and the human trafficking organizations? You get Rose, Red, McGowan, or Eliza, Blue. Blue, Red, Blue, Red. They both cut their hair short and say they're victims of human trafficking. Okay. I'm not going to say one way or the other if they are or aren't. I don't know. But doesn't anybody else think that's weird? You mean like nobody else anywhere in these narratives have a say? We just get to listen to Rose versus Blue. That's it. And we're supposed to believe these aren't just some sort of like set up characters and that this is like doesn't have some larger symbolism? Because guys, that's where I'm at with it. I just don't believe it because somebody should have talked to me by now. If you're trying to defeat this legitimately, I got so much shit going on with what leads back to my information. I don't know how the fuck but none of them do. They don't talk to me. Now maybe they're being blocked from me. Maybe they want to and they just can't. But quite a few of them are just mockingbird journalists out there, so they don't want this narrative. They're not going to look for it. They'll pretend it doesn't exist. But they'll go rushing to people that have names like that. Tell me Eliza Blue and Rose McGowan, who both do the exact same things with their hair, both say that they were part of cults that got them into human trafficking, and one is red and one is blue. Please tell me, what do you think about human trafficking? These are the only people we get to hear from? I mean, that's fine, guys, but is that it? Nobody senses there might be a little extra fuckery here? Some rigging as far as like who the gatekeepers are as this information goes? And then here's Elon just reinforcing it. So fine, guys. I mean, have it, but So the whole thing with the Defense Intelligence Agency, I was trying to show you that so you can kind of see that there's Defense Intelligence Agency documentation, there's the Monroe Institute documentation like the Gateway Experience, there's the Defense Intelligence Agency report like Controlled Offensive Behavior, and there's a consistent thread in all of these. Specific measurements of brainwave discussing how there's a brainwave measurement that's about, 7 to 8 hertz. There's an earth measurement that's some around 8 hertz, and there's a connection between these things. And so when you get that, then there's an acknowledgement that at a frequency level, there's things that we do between brain to brain that there is no physical verbal communication for, yet there's messages that are transmitted, received, and are interpretable both brain to brain as well as brain to machine and computer to brain. So these things are all in existence and they're all now known. Now, how do they operate at a deeper level, I guess? This is one of the, this is where I try to bring in this presentation as much as I can. I can't really play it because I think there might be a copyright thing going on with it, but I'll try to show you as many bits of it as I can. This is called The Human Energy Structure in the Invisible World by Alatra TV, and I think that they're based in Russia. I'm not entirely sure. This is like one of their English language presentations, but once you get past all the opening philosophical pieces here and you go to about 1.5 minutes in, this is where it gets like really, really incredibly deep into the energy structure of man, the way that we receive information from the hive mind, and the way we receive information and how it's transmitted brain to brain. Our energy structure. It says we divide a space around the man into 4 parts that have volume, meaning that in front of him, behind, and on each side of him, there are 4 triangle-shaped spaces. They call them the front aspect, the back aspect, right, left aspect. These areas are zones of aspects or essences. The human body also emits the so-called biosphere. Okay, so this is something I talk about a lot. Okay, so this is what my research is doing as far as like energetics 11, that presentation that I have inside my playlists. And I'm measuring that biofield you see there in that right there inside that pyramid structure. So, that's where I'm taking things, folks. That's where I'm personally going with all of this. That is an actual measurable field. I have the equipment to measure it with, and I'm proving these things along with a group of other people that are using similar types of equipments that the biofield exists and that it matters. And I mean, the biofield matters. So that's a verb also. The biofield brings things into physical resonance. So the same way I was showing you those rainbows a little bit, folks, I'm saying that like, yeah, there is an emission that is translucent that comes from the human body. And I believe in that. And I'm a trained engineer that had, a couple decades of wireless industry experience where, bizarrely, folks, we are mostly taught to laugh at this, or that when we're confronted with this idea, the vast majority of us would be inclined to kind of go like, yeah, whatever. But when you give people like us science and show numbers that are associated with it, like presentations like this do, there's actually numbers and science and far more esoteric sciences, but nevertheless measurable, provable concepts that actually somebody went out there, got equipment and said, no, we're not just saying this, like we've actually measured this. We actually know that there's this sort of etheric cloud of information that people tap into, brainwave to brainwave. There's an energy structure that's invisible that we've actually been able to decrypt and interpret. And notice how this aligns with the presentation you saw earlier, right? Remember, I was playing energetics in this presentation. And so what do you see in the beginning here, right? Think about it, guys. It's in alignment. the consciousness energy grid, is it not? The biosphere and the way that they discuss this, the energy structure of man, it's very similar. But they're getting way deeper into it and integrating the biosphere concept and showing you that at every chakra point that you resonate at these different frequencies. Now, folks, what I want you to know is like people would tell me things like this when I was first starting to get into these esoteric circles of information, and I would go show me some numbers, but nobody did. But the groups that came from Russia, they were showing numbers, they were showing equipment, they were actually proving it. They were actually generating reports that said, okay, we went to this location, and people that didn't think that there was anything esoteric going on there, we found they had ELF signatures that were abnormal. We found they had energy signatures from a helionosis life meter that were elevated. We found that all the people that went out there, their biofields improved. We measured them. We showed what they were when they were in a normal location surrounded by an electrical grid. Then we took them out to that area where they're surrounded by all this nature, and we saw their biofields improve. So they measured that signal of emissions of energy that comes from the body, and that's what I've been doing. And they were able to determine that there's differences between the geographic location that people go to, and it also changes brainwave, and it also changes your entire physical being, because that biofield brings everything surrounding you into physical reality. So thoughts become things. What you focus on, concentrate on, will become something. You can manifest things. Are you back with me, folks? Give me a thumbs up if you can see me, because my connection got interrupted. Thumbs up. We're good. I'm seeing myself on the screen again in both spots, so I think I'm good. Okay. All right. It's whenever I get into the meat of these things, guys, I'm telling you, this is when I just get constant jamming and interruptions. So I'm going to keep trying to plug away here. But this is a great diagram because it just shows you the collective hive mind, and there's the difference between the individual personality of the individual, how we make choices, spiritual versus physical, what manifests into physical, the exact biochemical process. What happens. They call this a septonic field of consciousness, guys. I'm still trying to even understand half the things that the Russians do and groups like Alatra do. And this is all things that are being taught, overseas, and that we're being told is ridiculous. But I think you all know by now that this is really how it works. So this is suppressed. Like, we never get to hear these things over here in the West. We're in very limited circles. And then when we do get information like this, it's never at this level of specificity. It never gives it to you like this perfectly. It'll always do it in this very fluffy way where they don't show you like this is an actual thought transmission. Looks like a DNA coil. The 3 phases of creation of a thought, guys. I mean, look at how deep this is. Stimulation of consciousness. Field of consciousness carries impulses back to the brain and personality. Feedback impulse moves towards personality via septonic field of consciousness. Aether, plasma. I mean, septonic field of consciousness, I would argue, is probably that place right where the electricity and magnetic fields meet with the plasma field while you're doing that whole collective hive mind versus individual mind, guys, because we're all creating it together. I mean, you see how deep this is? This actually explains it. Like, and I didn't make this. Somebody else did this. This is amazing to me. I'm still trying to understand most of this. But look at that. I mean, look at how brilliant these diagrams are into communicating this whole process of the way we communicate, we receive thoughts, our biofield, our chakra points, and how they all feed into it. You're in, you know, what your heart does when your heart begins to pulse, when you're motivated, when you actually feel something, when it makes your heart race, or when it's relaxed. What makes it relaxed? What puts you at peace? Where do you get the information? When do you get the most of it? So I'll leave you guys a link if you're interested here inside the I'm not sure what this organization does overall, guys. You know, I'm not trying to promote a religion or anything else like that. I just thought that as far as visualizations and explanations go, as far as how we manifest reality and create things inside the collective hive mind, it doesn't get much better than what you just saw there. I mean, I couldn't have made something like that from my own if I tried. So that's a really brilliant way of communicating things, guys, because again, we do have this biofield that's resonating outbound from us. Okay. And so everything that we're doing with that merges with other biofields um, inside the ionosphere. And what that presentation does is it sort of validates what I've been discussing in these presentations lately, that about how everything you focus and concentrate on generates bions. This is something James DeMeo discussed. He actually shows them in petri dishes and measures them, that all living things create bions. So within humans and within other living creatures that are conscious and aware and think of things, and they can manifest things into physical reality. I mean, like, you know, your dog or your cat does it, right? Your dog just visualizes like wanting to see what's underneath the grass and starts to dig a hole inside your yard. They literally changed physical reality through focus and concentration, and then just started creating a series of motions because they could visualize that something was underneath that lawn. And so they began to dig, dig, and dig, and they created a hole in the lawn, right? Something as basic as that. And that's all I've tried to do to folks is say, don't take for granted things in your daily life, because you'll take for granted the process of prayer. So, yeah, there's a lot of efforts right now to sort of globally hex and globally manifest negative things and negative actions and negative outcomes. But we as a group of people individually and as a group together, like, we actually have the power together to manifest and generate a better reality. Like, we don't have to passively sit by and accept what's being given to us. We actually have a way to vote in this process through focus and concentration. I would argue that that generates bions, which place things into that septonic field that offer more options to others. And so you're, through that process, getting back to that diagram, through that process, you're actually sending information into the ionosphere. And so that top pyramid there, that's where those circular clouds, what was that in the presentation, guys? Like, you need to give options to other people, the thought. Okay, that's being transmitted all across. Like, there is no space and time, folks. There is only this. This is all there is. This is just like the Matrix. Wake up, Neo, because this is everything. And if you want this experience that you're having to become better, then you have to remember that you're manifesting it every single second, every single day, every single hour. Every single thought that you generate carries thought form entities and bions. So remember what Mickey Mouse did with the dancing elephants. You can do to manifest better realities and better outcomes for you and your family and your loved ones, your country, and the world. And I've been working on it for years, and I'm starting to see the results. So I know it exists. So thank you very much for joining me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.